greatest trick the devil ever played would be to convince the world that he is God. The entity called Jehovah or Allah or Yahweh or God was for the Gnostics the demiurge, a kind of demon. He's the chief of the archons, who are sort of evil angels that mingle with humanity and lead us onto paths that are hostile to the nature of the soul. And he's a malicious, egotistical, minor supernatural. He's jealous, he's angry, he tells Abraham to murder his own son. He's the ghastly creature. Actually, if you look at the statements and behavior of this entity in the Old Testament, and we're told that we are the creature who's going to dominate the world. There's all sorts of really horrible ideas in that miasma of texts, and sitting at the top of it is this thing which, from the Gnostic point of view, wasn't God at all. Who's the bad guy in the Garden of Eden story? The serpent. Okay, he goes to Adam and Eve, he goes to Eve, and he says, you have to have knowledge of good and evil. You've got to eat from the tree of knowledge of good and evil. And that's portrayed as a terrible thing that he did. And it's the fall of man, supposedly the fall of man. From the Gnostic point of view, the serpent is the hero of the story. The serpent is the good guy because, from the Gnostic point of view, knowledge of good and evil is essential for the progress of the soul. If we live in a farmed, protected universe where we're just these kind of meat robots without any consciousness, and we don't know any difference between good and evil, and we can't make any choices, how can we possibly grow? How can we possibly develop? We live in a university of duality. I'm not saying, that's a phrase used by a friend of mine, I'm not saying that duality is all there is, but the suggestion is that on this plane of existence, duality has lessons to teach us, and that's what good and evil are about. So it's fascinating when we look at the Gnostic image of the tree of life, that it's a psychedelic mushroom. Not a tree, but a visionary agent. So, for eating of the tree of knowledge of good and evil, Adam and Eve are driven out of the garden in humiliating ways, beaten about the bottom with the edge of swords. Angels are posted at the edges of the garden to keep them out, lest they find their way to the tree of life. And we've been taught, taking it in with our mother's milk since childhood, that this is right, this is the right thing. But actually, what is going on here? Here is the learning of the knowledge of good and evil leads to the expulsion from the garden. What kind of God is that? Same goes with the flood. According to the Gnostics, it was not inflicted to punish evil, but to punish humanity for having risen so high and to take the light, the gnosis that was growing amongst men, and the survivors were thrown into great distraction and into a life of toil so that mankind might be occupied with worldly affairs and might not have the opportunity of being devoted to the human spirit. The Gnostic notion is that there is a divine spark within all of us, and that the demiurge and the archons, their project is to snuff that divine spark out. And we can only awaken it through revealed knowledge, through gnosis. And the suggestion is that that revealed knowledge for the Gnostics was connected with psychedelic experience. Throughout history, those who've sought the liberating gnosis have been persecuted. And although the stamping out of early Gnosticism in the Middle East goes back to about the 400s AD, 400 or 500s, there was a more recent form of Gnosticism which found its way into southern France. And these are the famous Cathars who lived in the area that we call the Languedoc or Occitania today. They were, in many ways, an extraordinarily beautiful civilization. If you go back to the 12th century, they were in favor of universal literacy. They invented and distributed paper. They believed in the absolute equality of men and women. It was the Cathar society that produced the troubadours and their amazing art. It was a flourishing civilization that would have moved, I think, in interesting directions of human freedom if it had been allowed to evolve. But they had one problem, which is that they regarded the Pope as the agent of the devil on earth. And that was a very dangerous thing to do in the 12th century. And as a result, a crusade was declared against them. It was called the Albigensian Crusades, named after the town of Albi, one of the Cathar towns. And really terrible things happened. This army came down from northern France, seething with harm and anger, and they entered into the Cathar lands and they just murdered everybody. There was one famous occasion when one of the generals came to the leader of the crusade and pointed out that some Catholics were living in the city of Béziers. What was to be done about them? And the pontiff, the leader simply said, kill them all. God will choose his own. God will know his own. Horrible, horrible incident of genocide and ethnic cleansing in the relatively recent past. And of course, the burnings at the stake. Consider what it takes, the mental state you've got to be in to burn a fellow human being at the stake. I mean, I can't think of a more ghastly way to die. And some who've been burnt at the stake, which is actually a form of human sacrifice, let's face it. I mean, that's what's happening when people are burnt at the stake by the Catholic Church in the past. It's a human sacrifice which is being offered to their God, their perhaps demonic God. It's a terrible way to die. The fat in your body begins to bubble and burn. It's a ghastly, ghastly death. So if you're going to inflict that on the human being, another human being, what is going on in your mind that you would actually do that? And it was done cheerfully and in huge numbers. The Cathars were burnt at the stake. Their books that were destroyed, utter destruction. And from the Gnostic point of view, the demiurge and his archons and their human servants, they're always trying to steal the light. And they're certainly doing so today. And if there's light growing, and I think it is, then we can be sure that tremendous archonic forces are working to suppress it. And if we take the hypothesis that the Gnostic scenario is correct, just for the sake of argument, then how might we expect these forces to manifest? Well, like this. The priests, the rabbis, the mullahs of the three Abrahamic faiths, those three faiths that have been responsible for so much horror in the world over the last 2,000 years, are still at it. They're still the jealous intermediaries who impose themselves between us and the divine, who do not want us to have direct contact with the realm of spirit, and who I would say have been systematically misguiding humanity and are at the source of the terrible problems that we confront in the world today.
Are you confused? I hope not. I hope that made sense. Now, Graham Hancock, he compiles genealogies for the bloodline families. Well, I don't know that to be factual. Who he works for. However, there has been a very large. I'll have to watch that later. I can't do that while I'm podcasting. Okay. So what I want you guys to think about is this. If there is a possibility that the God of the Old Testament is different than the God of the New Testament. So let's look at it like this. Okay. Hey, Naquea, wait up. What he talks about is the amount of killing that was done, the removal of every other race throughout the entire Old Testament. there was not a single book in the entire first or Old Testament that there was not a race being wiped out completely. Not a single one. The giving of land that belongs to one people to another doesn't seem to be kind of holy in any way, shape, or form. Now, Christ taught us forgiveness, right? Now, when Christ went to the Decapolis, okay, after he sent his disciples out, I think it was Andrew and Philip. Yeah, I think it was Andrew and Philip who went to the Decapolis during the time that Christ sent them out in twos with nothing, except for the clothes that were on their back and the shoes that were on their feet, or the sandals that were on their feet. They weren't to bring any food, clothing, anything. Okay. Now he said that I only want you to minister to our people. Now, the issue was that although the crowd that was before them was in fact their own people, other people had their windows open, had balconies, and they listened, they heard. And it started this upheaval in the Decapolis. 3 cities formed the Decapolis. Okay. 3 cities that they ministered in, okay, that had Greeks, had Romans, had Jews or Israelites, I should say Israelites, and Ethiopians. Okay. So all of a sudden, all these people were fighting, arguing, yelling, screaming. I mean, it came to many small battles in every single city. Many, of the 3 in the Decapolis. So a messenger was sent to Capernaum to Andrew and Philip saying, "What have you done? You've destroyed our cities. People are evacuating the cities. They're now starving and everything else." So they went and they told Jesus, and Jesus said, "Okay, let's make a trip down there and let's go and rectify this." Now, when Christ arrived, he was met by 3 of the groups: the Greeks, the Jews, and the Romans. Okay. Now the Romans weren't Romans that were involved in the and the Ethiopians, I'm sorry, were not the Romans that were the invaders. They were Romans that had been there prior to that period of time. Okay. So everybody had their own sacrificial altars and everything else. Now, what transpired was Jesus ended up healing somebody who had a broken leg, and the leg was rotting. Okay. Everybody could smell it. Okay. Everybody could smell it. So Christ healed that guy. Okay. He came up there on crutches. Okay. But he ran back to his family after he was healed. He ran through the whole crowd. Everybody saw him with a broken leg. They saw the bone sticking out. They saw the rot. They smelled the rot. Okay. And all of a sudden they all sat down. Now, this is what led to the feeding of the 5,000 with, 5 loaves and 2 fish. Okay. So, and he began to minister to everybody. The Greeks, the Ethiopians, the Romans, and the Israelites, the Jews. So his message was clear that there was one creator, okay, but that you should not downgrade somebody else's religion because you're of another. Okay. So in the whole Old Testament, the God of the Old Testament was destructive. So many people were just brutally murdered in the name of the Creator. In the New Testament, it wasn't like that. It was about going and ministering about our Heavenly Father, peace and love. Okay. And so what I'm saying is that I question the Old Testament in the way of the destructiveness, and I lift up the New Testament in the way that my Lord and Savior wants me to, with love, kindness, compassion, caring. He said to love your enemies. Pray for your enemies. Show compassion for your enemies. Am I making sense to you now? A God that would send you out to murder and kill, or a creator of love and peace, prosperity, procreation. Maybe I'm not making sense to you. I don't know. If I am, I am. If I'm not, I'm not. But I just want you to look at that. Although there were prophets in the Old Testament that predicted what was going to happen to start the new covenant, to start the New Testament, the scribes of the Old Testament were uniquely different than those of the New Testament. So it's just something to think about. Just something to think about. Here is a clip. This is an interview by Victor Avila, who is respected by so many. His knowledge, experience, contacts are rock solid. Unfortunately, he is brave enough to be honest and risk everything. Okay. And this was posted up by Juanita Broderick. Laura Logan shared it. DHS has confirmed that Venezuela has, in fact, emptied their prisons and mental institutions and sent them to the United States. President Trump's been saying this for a couple of years now. But to have somebody like Dr. Phil saying it is going to reach some different people. Okay. You think about all of the people who were big Oprah fans that are still big Oprah fans. And then you got Dr. Phil out here spitting truth. Makes you begin to question Oprah. Makes you begin to question the Democrat Party and the Democrat establishment, and put the country first kind of thing, you know. So this is it's a different perspective. Okay, different perspective. So let's take a listen.
The DHS has acknowledged that Venezuela, for example, is emptying their prisons and their rehabilitation centers with the understanding you get out if you leave here and go to the United States.
Yes.
And DHS has, in writing, said, we know that's happening. We know they're coming here. We're processing them in and have no idea where they are.
Correct.
How many people are we talking about?
Millions. And just Venezuela alone.
We're talking about in the last 2 or 3 years, we've had estimated how many people have come across the border.
My estimation, the official number, I think, is about 10 million.
Yeah, it's about 10, 11 million.
Yeah,
that's the official.
But my personal opinion, I think we're about 15 to 18 million.
Okay. And you're saying several million of those have come from Venezuela?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, a lot from Venezuela. I mean, the majority, a lot of them came from Venezuela. Now they're coming from every single part of the world. Africa, New Guinea, Mauritanian, is that the way you say that one? Middle East, China, India, Syria, Yemen, Russia, you name the country, they are coming. And this is the part that a lot of people don't understand, that don't report, because a lot of these individuals that are coming from these special interest countries, that DHS labels them SIAs, like I said before, because they might be, we don't know, but they come from countries that sponsor terrorism. So they would require additional screening. But we already caught over 500 of those on the terror watch list that we actually caught coming in through Arizona or Texas. Can you imagine how many we've actually missed that actually their whole purpose of coming into the United States is possibly to do us harm?
The reality is that the terrorism threat has been elevated throughout 2023, but the ongoing war in the Middle East has raised the threat of an attack against Americans in the United States to a whole nother level.
Last fiscal year, Border Patrol apprehended 564 people on the terror watch list. Of them, 484 were encountered on the northern border.
For the very first time, internal DHS data reveals the U.S. cities that hundreds of thousands of Cuban, Haitian, Nicaraguan, and Venezuelan migrants have flown into via a controversial mass parole program created by the Biden administration. The DHS data was obtained via subpoena by the House Homeland Security Committee, which provided it exclusively to Fox News. The data reveals that from January through August 2023, about 200,000 migrants flew into the U.S. via the Biden parole program. This is a breakdown of the top 15 U.S. cities those migrants flew into and how many arrived. The destinations include multiple cities in Florida, New York City, Los Angeles, Dallas and Houston, Washington, D.C., Atlanta, Chicago, and Las Vegas. More than 161,000 migrants flew into 4 of Florida's major airports in Miami, Fort Lauderdale, Orlando, and Tampa Bay. That means Florida received 80% of all the migrant flights during those 8 months.
Some are coming with an agenda, are being sent. They are Chavistas sympathizers. These are Hugo Chavez people. They're socialist communists, and they're bringing that agenda purposefully in South Florida. In Dallas, Texas, South Dallas, Texas, there's an area called Via Dallas right now that is controlled by illegal alien Venezuelans. You can't go in there. Dallas PD doesn't even go in there. As a matter of fact, they're looking for private security people to try to go in there and contain the trafficking, the drugs, the prostitution, everything that's going on in there. And just like this community in Dallas, there's one in Florida, and they're all around. And it's the gang associated with Tren de Aragua, the gang, the Venezuelan gang that has attached itself to these communities and control these areas here in our country.
Would you say there's over 1 million that have gotten in the United States from Venezuela?
I have to check on that number for you, but I would say close.
Close to 1 million?
Yeah, that's a lot of people. And that memo, by the way, that memo, I'm gonna try to get it to you. It's a memo. It got leaked. DHS admitting that in fact they were releasing them, and we're seeing it. We're seeing it across the country with the crimes that they're committing.
So Venezuela's murder rate is at the lowest it's ever been.
Yes.
Because all the murderers have left there and come here.
Yeah.
And we know this.
The fastest growing transnational criminal organization known as the Tren de Aragua is a Venezuelan gang that has now infiltrated its way into the United States through various sectors of the U.S.-Mexico border.
Mi odisea comenzó cuando yo crucé la frontera, hace 3 años y medio. Pues yo, de verdad, yo venía a medida con mi plata y había quedado ya sin dinero. Ya había quedado sin dinero, nos tocó pasar por trocha. Cuando nosotros pasamos que no teníamos dinero para pagar. A mí, más que todo a mí, porque me tocó pagar con mi cuerpo.
Venezuelan national dubbed the migrant influencers at the center of controversy this morning. He has been using TikTok to coach migrants how to live in the U.S. by taking advantage of laws protecting squatters. Hannah Doba reports.
In his most recent controversial TikTok video, Moreno is telling his followers to avoid living on the streets in the United States. They can, quote, invade empty homes and live there.
The problem you folks have is that you want to quote Socrates in the middle of a bar fight. Iran is not our friend. Venezuela is not our friend. President Biden keeps giving them money to buy weapons to try to kill us. Senator, do you not understand that?
So there's a confusion right now of we need additional personnel. I always welcome personnel. The more the merrier. The more police, the better for me, for the country. But the answer is no. The answer is we need more border agents to stop this. Actually, no. Actually, the answer is no. We have enough. We have almost 20,000 Border Patrol agents. I think there needs to be a readjustment of those 20,000 Border Patrol agents and the duties of where they're at. Plus, at this point, it doesn't really matter that we have the 20,000 because they're not being allowed to be down there.
They're social workers.
Yeah, they're transporting, hospital watch, everything else that they're making them do. So it is not. But if you were to go back to enforcement, I always welcome more personnel. The more the merrier. But we have enough. And
the criminals who committed those crimes are responsible for their criminal conduct.
They wouldn't have been into this country had you not allowed them in through your open board. Do you ever call up the families of the crime victims? Do you ever talk to Laken Riley's family?
Senator, as I stated previously, all of our hearts break for the loved ones of those who have been lost at the hands.
Answer the fucking question. Did you call Laken Riley's family?
Okay, so your heart is broken. Do you have regrets? Do you admit your culpability here? Do you admit that your actions have resulted in the deaths and the murders and the assaults of thousands of Americans? I've got the CBP statistics here. Assault and battery up 5.7 times over the last few years what it was in 2020. Homicide up 17 times. Again, these are from people in this country illegally. Sexual offenses up 2.5 times. Again, that's the direct result of your actions, of President Biden's actions. Quite honestly, of actions of Democrats in the Senate who refused to vote to complete the wall, which would have helped. It's not the full solution. The full solution is actually having a president and Secretary of Homeland Security that wants a secure border. Our problem is we have a president, a Secretary of Homeland Security, Democrats in Congress, who want an open border that caused this problem, and they won't admit it.
But this virtual flood of pills, both into and through Arizona, which has dramatically worsened under the current administration, allowed my boys to make choices they may not have without the current open border crisis.
But because it's a silent killer with these counterfeit pills, there's no urgency. I don't know of any other terrorist organization, not ISIS, not the Taliban, not anyone that has killed as many Americans, but the cartels have. And that's why I'm in favor of labeling them as terrorists as well, so we could be able to approach them in a different manner.
Nearly 108,000 Americans died of drug overdose in 2022. That's according to recent government data. That figure is a record. And of those, more than 2/3 were linked to synthetic opioids, mainly illicitly manufactured fentanyl.
A powerful painkiller known as fentanyl is responsible for one of the deadliest drug crises in the United States. It is the leading cause of death for Americans ages 18 to 45, and it can kill people who don't even know that they are taking it.
Why is nobody talking about this?
Well, that's the frustrating part. There's very few of us out there trying to do something about it and bring this awareness. Because one of the things I tell, at least be aware, at least understand. No longer the days of being ignorant and bliss about this. You have to at least acknowledge that you have to know that this happens.
As they rallied Wednesday, the Biden administration announced it will grant temporary protected status to Venezuelans who came to the U.S. before July 31st of this year. That will expedite work authorization for about 472,000 Venezuelans seeking asylum in the U.S., including up to 60,000 Venezuelans who have come to New York in the past year.
The report reveals that Venezuelans have become the largest nationality for illegal border crossings, replacing Mexicans for the first time on record. According to U.S. Customs and Border Protection officials, Venezuelans were arrested nearly 55,000 times last month by Border Patrol after entering from Mexico.
From Venezuela now temporarily protected and able to work.
This move from the Biden administration comes as New York leaders continue to apply pressure for more help with the asylum seeker crisis.
Do you think there are people that are coming over that have the intent to do our neighbors, our friends, our family members harm?
Absolutely. These huge give up groups that we're getting, the media is only reporting what they can report on, right? Which is statistically speaking a small percentage of the actual bad guys that we're catching. Who's getting through? The really good ones we will never catch. You can't pay attention to the matches that are walking through the border when all you can see is the little bonfire. Our border is by no means secure.
Well, interesting. All right. Let me turn that speaker off so we don't get no feedback. And let's take a look. You guys are awake. Oh my, you're awake. Yeah. Look at you. Look at you. Oh, look at this face. Look at this face. Oh, such a beautiful face. Yes. Yeah. It's kind of stretched out everywhere. So it's this is pretty cool because these other four were just feeding like uh 10 minutes ago, 15 minutes ago, and now they're all asleep, and the other four are belly up to the bar, and she switched sides. So yeah, so it's actually kind of cool. Mama's doing good. Mama doing good. Yeah. Yeah. I see you emptied your food bowl. Good for you. Normally, for the first day or two after they have them, they don't eat much. Um, but what's actually pretty cool about her was that she actually let me give her what I give to the puppies, which is the Royal Canin puppy food, and I pour milk on it. That's what I'm getting ready to burn here in a minute. Yep, yep, yep. All right, let's get back to it. Okay, so everybody got an update now. Now you know what's going on. You see what's going on. Yeah. And if anything else happens, I'll get them. Yeah, mom did a great job, and dad actually I had Gabriel laying down in the on a couple of the dog beds. I had him stretched out, rubbing his belly, and so I grabbed out two of the two white ones, and he just nuzzled them, you know. And then when I put them back in, I was like, damn it, why didn't I have my phone on? Why didn't I record this? Yeah, it's I got so much going on here, it's ridiculous. So yeah. Did somebody say burn one? Yes, Cheryl Jones. I said that I was burning one now. Damn. You know, I used to have this policy that if the lighter did not light on the first strike, I wasn't meant to take a hit. My attitude has changed tremendously. Now I get rid of that lighter and I break out. A new one. Go on, go lay down. Jelly Bean, you don't need to be underneath my desk. Yep. Don't need to be underneath there. Hang on, one more. What the heck? What is it? That's a brand spanking new lighter. Why you? There we go. Now we got one that works. That third hit, that was for John Dunning, my brother from another mother. Good to see you in chat, brother. Always good to see you. So yeah, I know. It's like 4 strikes, you're out. You know, I thought it was 3.
The greatest trick
Could
the
be,
devil ever played would be
could have been 4. I want to make sure there wasn't anything else that.
DHS
convince the world that he's God.
Oh, I did. You know what I do want to do
is
before we move on. I want to check and see if that guy responded to my comment yesterday about my point of view in regards to these Russian guys. Nope. Nope. Yep. Yeah. it says I got 13 new ones, so there must be more up above that. Maybe I was just, oh yeah, I guess I was scrolling in the wrong direction, wasn't I? This is going to be one that we're definitely going to go over. Is the media trying to start a war between Venezuelans and blacks in Chicago? Yes, they are. And I'm going to show you why here in a few minutes. Nobody responded to that. So, it's like, did I? I did, didn't I? I freaking did. Dang nabbit. I got to go back over to the other feed. Whoop. Let's see. Oh. I don't want to, yeah. Okay, and there's the other one. Give me a second here, guys. I flubbed up a little bit there. I ended up jumping the feed over to home instead of hitting the back button in order to take me to back to where we were. My fault. If I all of a sudden go quiet, it's because the dogs are jumping up because I got a guy coming to pick up my fuel cans to get me restocked with gasoline for the generators. So the dogs hear his long before he gets down here. Okay. All right. We're back. It's okay. We saw the puppies. I guess the most important part of the show is already over, right? It's everybody's going to nap now while I just ramble on and on and on and on and on, right? Is that what's going on here? Is that what's going on here? Yeah. Thanks, guys. I appreciate it. It's to know that I don't matter as long as the puppies are shown on a daily basis. Second fiddle to four-legged fur balls. Okay. All right. Donald Trump, Pennsylvania, listen up. Early voting is fast approaching. Make sure you know the key deadlines. Here we go. This is an interview with Scott Pressler.
Now, those dates again, Donald Trump Jr., are October 21st is the last day to register to vote in Pennsylvania. Please check your voter status right now. You read October 20th. Order them last on ballot.
Thank you so much. I actually want to, so on X, follow his organization.
Kind of messed up. Oh, hang on a second. I turned down my speakers. I turned down my speakers when I went over to film the puppies because I didn't want to get feedback. So all this time.
Now, those dates again, Donald Trump Jr., are October 21st is the last day to register to vote in Pennsylvania. Please check your voter status right now. Pennsylvania, check voter status. If you're an inactive voter, you re-register to vote at your current address. PA, voterservices.pa.gov. The last day to request a mail-in ballot in Pennsylvania is October 29th. Do not wait until October 29th. Your application will be processed in the order that it is received. If Democrats all order theirs first and Republicans order them last, Republican ballots will be shipped out last. Don't delay. Type into the internet, Pennsylvania, request mail-in ballot, PA voter services.pa.gov, October 21st, October 29th.
Well, Scott, thank you so much. Yeah, if you're in Pennsylvania, 100% do that. If you're in a different state, figure out your deadlines. They can all be done in a quick and easy search. Get after it now. Don't delay. Don't wait. I'm going to take them and Drew, I want you guys to clip this. Let's just put it up on social so that everyone understands these things. It's so critical. So Scott, thank you so much for the incredible work that you're doing. Everyone, check out Scott on X, follow his organization.
All right. Very nice. Very nice. Very nice. Very nice. All right. Give me 1 second here. I'm just sending a message to the guy who's getting my gas that that there's more on the card. Bear with me, guys. Got to mute for a second so I can do a voice. Okay, back with you. Sorry about that. Okay, I memed, therefore I am. Oh, look, two pieces of shit who are robbing the American taxpayers in the name of democracy. Zelensky can keep Graham because we don't want this warmonger and traitor. Here we go.
I'm here with President Zelensky. I am such a admirer of what you and your country have done. You're trying to stop the Russians so we don't have to fight them. They don't want any American troops. They just need the weapons to free their country of a terrible invasion. They're sitting on $1 trillion worth of minerals that could be good to our economy. So I want to keep helping our friends in Ukraine. We can win this. They need our help.
Yes, we need, and we have already. The biggest help is the support of American people and support of our friends. Thanks to Lindsey and his colleagues, to congressmen and senators from the United States. Thanks for this support, bipartisan support. Thank you so much.
Peace is coming.
Yes, soon.
Yeah, the only way that that's happening is if Donald Trump gets in office, because if this current administration stays in there, we're going to keep funding it and they're going to keep stealing it. It's that simple. And enough is enough. We're tired of it. We as Americans are done with the bullshit. All right. General McAllister gives Bill Maher a reality check about how failed Democrat foreign policy from Obama, Biden, and Kamala Harris emboldened Iran. Here we go.
The Iran deal, I have the things here. Iran's stockpile of enriched uranium was reduced by 98% until 2031. The R&D, the research existing facilities redesigned so they could not produce weapons-grade plutonium. International inspectors allowed to access any site in the country anytime they wanted. What do you want?
That's all.
This is what negotiations are. You're not going to do better than that.
No, actually, you could do a lot better than that by not.
You could, but not have the other side agree to it.
But I think sometimes what happens is our diplomats, when they're faced with the opportunity to get a deal, they think that they should just make concession after concession, and the deal itself is an achievement, when in fact, in this case, it was a political disaster. For the reason is that really none of those really weak parts of the agreement, because there's a sunset clause, were adhered to by the Iranians. As soon before the ink was dry, Bill, they said, hey, here's all the list of sites you can't visit. And so the verification regime was very weak. It essentially gave a regime who you cannot trust. We know that from a 4-decade
You
plus
can't
proxy
trust anybody.
war.
That's why you have this in the treaty
But
that said
it was inadequate verification, the sunset clause.
All right.
But what
All right.
happened was even worse than the agreement was the sanctions relief that went along with it, that transferred, $100 billion, more than $100 billion to the Iranians. And you know where that money went? Into the coffers of the Islamic Revolutionary Guards Corps, and then increased the stipend of Hamas, Hezbollah, the proxy army in Syria, the Hashd-e-Shaabi militias in Iraq, and the Houthis. And then when the Biden administration came in, they went back to that same playbook with actually kind of the same people. They undesignated the Houthis. How did that work out? They didn't enforce the Trump-era sanctions. That resulted in the transfer of about $80 billion into those coffers again. Remember, there were $6 billion sitting in Qatar to be transferred to the Iranians on the eve of the October 7th heinous attacks against Israel. So I think the words you used, feckless, that applies to the Biden administration Middle East
I have
policy.
one more important question I have to ask you.
Yeah, I was looking to see if there was a second video to it to continue that. So sorry. Yeah. Go ahead, lay down, girl. The guy went in and he had the picture frames all loaded with his grandmother's picture. Okay. And she was like grabbing all the frames and everything. This is my picture. This is my picture. This is my picture. I ain't paying for these. They got my damn picture in them. And well, let's take it to another level. Here we go.
What the fuck?
What?
Look at that.
It's Spider-Man.
That's fucking me. That's my fucking picture.
That's Peter Parker.
That ain't Peter Parker. That is fucking me. Son of a bitch. Look here. Look at Shrek. They even got my fucking face on his eyes. Oh, hell no. Oh, motherfucker. They even got me looking like Will on Stranger Things. Son of a bitch.
What the hell's going on here?
Where the fuck they get these?
Hey, they got the new Grand Theft Auto.
Motherfucker, that's me. How the fuck they get that?
I don't know, Granny. Did you give them permission to use?
Hell no. Motherfucker. What the fuck's going on? Did you do this shit?
No, I don't work at Walmart.
Well, how the fuck did they get them?
They didn't look that much like you, Granny.
The fuck I didn't. I'll call fucking corporate. I'll find out who in the fuck's doing this shit.
What are you going to say to corporate?
Well, that's the word the fuck they got them at. Who in the hell give them permission to use me on the front of their fucking shit? You see that?
Yeah, it's a new Spider-Man No Way Home.
All right. You see whose picture's on it?
Yeah.
How the hell they get one with my picture on? I'm taking this motherfucker home. I'm Shrek even. See him? Son of a bitch. That ain't nothing. Look at Stranger Things. They got me dressed up as Will. Thinking I won't recognize that shit. And to top it off, and to settle it through, how about Grand Theft Auto 4?
That's 6, Ram.
6?
That is 6. Didn't even come out yet.
Motherfucker.
That must be the illegally downloaded version of it.
Well, I'm going to find out who done it.
we gotta have some laughs, guys. We gotta have some laughs. I'm just saying, yeah, Granny needs some soap. Oh, what's this? Hold on. What? Wait, did I just see that? Joe Carroll says, I love this one, but I would be the same way. Yeah, it's potty mouth grandma. Yeah. It's yeah. It's a good one. All right. My take on Judge Mershon's moving Trump sentencing. This is Janine Pirro. Here we go.
I am stunned. Look, this is a judge who at every turn ruled against Donald Trump. Yeah. This is a judge who allowed prejudicial evidence to come in, evidence that had nothing to do with the underlying charge. And speaking of the underlying charge, most of it is expired pursuant to the statute of limitations, bootstrapped and resurrected by another crime that the jury didn't have to really identify. And there's a lot of hearsay and there's some privileged information. Then in the interim, is a Supreme Court decision that came out in July that said, hey, you have to separate immunity or immunize and privilege testimony from the underlying essence of the crimes in this case. And now all of a sudden, Judge Mershon is saying, well, I don't want to be political here. I think it's time that we took note of the fact that we're in a presidential election season. Are you kidding me? This is a political decision made by a judge who said, you know what? This is a close election. I'm not going to give Donald Trump any kind of advantage here. That's my interpretation. Based upon a judge who did everything he could. Even the verdict sheet in this case is not, you can't understand it. I've never seen anything like it. And so now suddenly the DA, Martha, agrees. The DA says, we're not going to object to his sentencing. They want to throw him in jail, but they know that this is a case that will go in Trump's favor, and they don't want that to happen.
So this is Alvin Bragg. There's so many cases that we've been keeping straight, but this was the hush money case, and you remember that Alvin Bragg basically took something that was beyond the statute of limitations and extrapolated it into, I think, 34 counts it was in the end, which had people outraged back then. Do you think that they are now looking at this situation and that they got cold feet? I mean, at one point, Mershon did say back in the courtroom, it's not lost on me that I have someone here who may be the next president of the United States. Do you think that they just said, you know what, we don't really want this on our shoulders?
Well, I think that it is inevitable that this case will be reversed. And I think that maybe Mershon did everything he had to do, that he allowed in testimony regarding a crime that nobody knows what it was, and that in the end, they will be able to say that Donald Trump is a convicted felon. He's been convicted on 34 counts. But you know what? We're going to delay the sentencing because maybe if they had the sentencing and Donald Trump took an appeal, depending upon how quickly the appellate court wanted to rule on this, I mean, this is an important case where exigent circumstances would require an appellate court to take it up immediately. They don't want to be slapped down either. So, I mean, there are so many avenues here in this case. But the one thing that is so essential to understand, Martha, is that every turn was against Donald Trump. Now, all of a sudden, we're clean. We don't want to get involved in anything political. It's a presidential election season, and we're gonna just adjourn the sentencing until after election. And by the way, Jack Smith got a superseding indictment, right? Georgia's nowhere in that case. We don't know even know who the prosecutor is. Mershon doesn't want to be hanging alone on this, where he's definitely going to be slapped.
Let me ask you this, which is a purely political question about all of this, because there was clearly a big rush in all these cases. Jack Smith wanted his cases, which were January 6th, and the documents case, which got thrown out by the judge in Florida. They wanted all this to happen before the election. Do you think that the fact that Kamala Harris is now the candidate has made them cool their heels a little bit, that they're less worried about a second President Trump term?
they may look at it and say, you know, it looks tight, and that's why I go back to the political. That this little bit where if you put or sentence someone running for president on house arrest or whatever confinement, the country will go crazy. We are a republic. This is the United States. You don't put someone running for president in jail or house confinement.
What about November 26th, when we'll know? I mean, either he's the next president or he is not, or he loses the election.
But
will there be a sentencing then?
They will have to make a decision first on the immunity part of this, based on the Supreme Court's decision. That will then be appealed, and then they would probably go to a sentencing. But here's the thing: if he's president, they can't put him in jail at that point, okay? Because he's got to run the country.
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot of avenues on this one, but I've never seen them say, oh, we don't want to be political. No.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's yeah. Personally, I think the backlash of all of this is going to be devastating no matter what. Okay? Because the American people want to see accountability for this, you know, for the politicizing of our judicial, you know, lawfare, whatever you want to call it. Okay. We want to see accountability for this. Okay. Sure. It's making us like the candidate more because of the fact that we get to see the corruption and everything, but I want to see an accountability all the way across the board. And I want that fucking Epstein list released. I want everybody to know who these people are. Every single one of them. You know. So, all right. Elon Musk says, this is crazy, John Stossel. A new law in Scotland threatens you with 7 years in jail if you misgender someone.
Many people say that chant is a call for genocide.
Erasing the state of Israel. It's a call for the end of the world's only Jewish state and its people.
If they are advocating genocide, should that chant then be illegal? The First Amendment says Congress shall make no law abridging freedom of speech. But there are exceptions. Laws forbid speech that incites imminent lawless action. Now, Democrats and Republicans in the House have approved a bill saying, from the river to the sea, illegal discrimination at universities. If it becomes law, that would be something new for America. Here, even hateful speech has been legal. That's not true in most of the rest of the world. Most countries now have laws against what they call hate speech. And Canada is about to pass a law that would imprison people for life if they advocate genocide.
We stand with the Palestinian resistance and their heroic and brave action on October 7th.
Who's going to be the determiner of who's going to be prosecuted?
Canadian Ezra Levant, founder of the media outlet Rebel News, fights for free speech.
Life in prison for saying the wrong thing. I'm worried about a law like that that gives a politician the chance to criminalize his peaceful opponent.
Some countries criminalize their opponents now. A Brazilian judge recently ordered Twitter to block popular accounts that support the former Brazilian president.
This crusading judge says, take the accounts down. I'm not going to tell you why.
Elon Musk said, no, we will lose revenue, but principles matter more. He called the judge Brazil's Darth Vader. And he does resemble Vader.
You believe misgendering a transgender person is a hate crime. Why?
Scotland recently banned misgendering.
Well, gender is a protected characteristic just as much as race.
Calling her a man could get you 7 years in jail. The politician who pushed the law says, don't worry.
Unless your behavior is threatening or abusive and intends to stir up hatred, then you have nothing to worry about.
Nothing to worry about unless a reasonable person views the speech as insulting and likely to result in hatred.
Do you have any idea how serious this is?
Harry Potter's creator sees the problem.
J.K. Rowling says Scotland's new anti-hate crime law is a threat to free speech.
She wrote, if the accurate description of biological sex is deemed criminal, freedom of speech and belief are at an end. This made her enemies slit her throat, says one.
J.K. Rowling, not a good person.
But Rowling won't back down. The day Scotland's new law took effect, she intentionally broke it by misgendering some trans people on Twitter. She said, these aren't women, but men. I look forward to being arrested.
J.K. Rowling has the wealth to fight a strong defense. She said, anyone who's charged under this, I'm going to repeat their words. Let them come after me.
Scottish police chose not to.
If you seek the removal of freedoms from an opponent simply on the grounds that they have offended you, you have crossed a line to stand alongside tyrants.
She and Elon Musk are the two people in the world who have done more to stop cancel culture.
In Britain, police enforce cancel culture. Police there arrest people who criticize so-called marginalized groups.
Remind me again why I'm being arrested.
This man was arrested just for retweeting this image. 4 progress pride flags put together so they form a swastika. He wasn't supporting Nazis, just arguing that the woke movement is totalitarian.
You should not be doing this to me. I expect my freedom of speech.
They handcuffed him. Why did they handcuff him? Was he some physical menace? I don't think you're reducing the hate when you police it in that way.
But polls show
Most people say, yeah, we should have rules against spreading hate.
But every once in a while, the ability to speak the truth is a more pressing value, even if we're going to hurt a feeling, even if we're going to upset the apple cart. That's what freedom of speech means. It means it trumps those other values.
Canada's laws now give politicians power over people's speech. Levant's been charged multiple times.
I wrote a book about Justin Trudeau, a knockoff of The Sopranos. I called it The Libranos because he's with the Liberal Party. Oh, he hated that book. He hated the cover art, which looked like he was a mafioso. And so I was prosecuted.
What was your marketing plan?
Levant was called before investigators working for Elections Canada.
Was it political advertising?
Canada has laws against unregistered political ads. But Levant asked the investigators.
Is anyone in your office investigating any other books about Justin Trudeau or just the book that's critical of him? They convicted me. They fined me 5 years later. I'm still in court over a book that criticized Justin Trudeau.
Organizations like yours continue to spread misinformation and disinformation.
Now Trudeau is pushing that law, imposing life in prison for hate speech.
Canadians must like this. He gets reelected.
A lot of Canadians and Americans and Brits want a net nanny, but for the other guy.
It's important that everyone have free speech.
Give people that peaceful outlet for their grievance. You need that, in case of fire, break glass, freedom of speech when there's a crisis, when you just need to speak the truth. If you cork them up, if you don't let them have the safety valve of free speech, they'll explode in another way, possibly including violence. I think there's a correlation between the countries that have the least freedom of speech and countries that have violent terrorism. Free speech is a preventive mechanism that prevents an escalation of problems.
Canada's punishing certain speech with life in prison will discourage some from speaking their truth.
We're a laboratory of bad ideas.
It's good that so far our American police, when they make arrests, say the arrests are for trespassing or property damage, not speech. I don't agree with what these people say, but I'll defend everyone's right to say it.
Yeah, it was a John Stossel clip there. That was pretty good. That was pretty good. All right, how about a little bit of Mayrox? Here we go.
Hey, you guys. So I found more to this Jerusalem debt clock message. I wanted to go over it real quick with you guys. And thank you to Tina. You pointed this out. The temple on the map is Ezekiel's temple. This is the temple that Ezekiel had in his vision. Now, this temple hasn't been built yet, right? But this is based on the description, because he was very specific in Ezekiel of the dimensions and how this temple looked. Okay. Now, why is this important? On the Jerusalem map, we have this phrase up here, right? And it's talking about Ezekiel 5. Here's the translation right here. It says, Ezekiel 5, this is Jerusalem. I have planted it in the midst of the Gentiles and the lands around it. And again, notice on this bottom part of the map, right here, Florida was hovering over number 17 and was highlighting Christus, which is Christ. And the phrase means here Christ was scourged. And there's numbers all around the map, okay, that align with these numbers here, right? So these numbers tell you where certain spots are in the map. And we cannot find number 17 anywhere on the map. And also notice number 33 is blank. Now, I don't have time to go further into that. I explained all of that in my previous videos on this dead clock message, but pointing out number 33, Ezekiel 33 has 33 verses in the King James translation. And it pretty much is, this chapter treats the prophet's duty and the people's sins, contains a vindication of the justice of God, a threatening of destruction to those who remained in the land after the taking of the city, a detection of the hypocrisy of the prophet's hearers. So that chapter is a full-on warning that the wicked would be destroyed if they do not heed the warning. So the whole book of Ezekiel pronounces judgment on both Israel and surrounding nations, but it also provides a vision of the true millennial kingdom that complements and adds to the vision of the Old and New Testament texts. It says it also offers readers a picture of the reconstructed temple in Jerusalem, complete with the return of God's glory to his dwelling place. It says the latter section of Ezekiel's prophecy looks forward to the people's worship after Christ's return in the end times, when he will rule Israel and the nations from his throne in Jerusalem during his 1,000-year reign. So this is the vision of the temple that Ezekiel had, which is the New Jerusalem or the promised land, right? And we have America hovering over the Jerusalem map. Okay, so now I'm going to make a disclaimer. My next portion of this, I'm going to bring up something interesting that aligns with America being the promised land, okay? And a lot of you have brought this up, and you're telling me you need to dive deeper into this specific thing. And I've been hesitant to bring it up because there's a lot of conspiracy about this religion, but something keeps telling me to go over it because it aligns and the dots connect. So you guys, I don't want to hear any negativity. Now I'm bringing into perspective the Book of Mormon. Now, before you guys start ripping me to pieces, I am going to tell you guys something about me that none of you guys know. I was raised Mormon. Now, before you judge me, I fell away from the religion when I was in my teenage years, and I went on my own spiritual path, okay? That doesn't mean I don't believe that the Book of Mormon is true. I believe that there's truth in all religions, and I keep my mind open to all information, okay? Now, how does the Book of Mormon tie into this debt clock message? So Nephi was a prophet. He was exiled out of Jerusalem, and he was led by God to come to the promised land. So he sailed to America. Back then it was ancient America because the Book of Mormon was written on golden plates by different prophets, but was all in ancient America. And it dates back about 600 years before Christ was born. And Jesus Christ was mentioned several times in the Book of Mormon because everybody knew and was prophesying that the Messiah would be born, right? So the golden plates were written by the prophets way before Christ was even born, or before the books of the Bible were written. Now, I want to take you back to this phrase on the Jerusalem map, okay, in Latin. says Ezekiel 5, this is Jerusalem. I have planted it in the midst of the Gentiles and the lands around it. They're talking about the new Jerusalem in the future context, because remember, this temple was a vision in the future. It has not been built yet. Ezekiel's temple vision in 40 through 48 is a figurative description of the heavenly reality of God's presence in his heavenly temple. And I want you guys to pay attention. I have planted it in the midst of the Gentiles, this new Jerusalem, or this Jerusalem. The Book of Mormon describes the Gentiles in a number of ways, including led by God to the Americas. The Gentiles are those who were led by God to the Americas. And Nephi was exiled out of Jerusalem, right? And was led by God to the promised land, which was the Americas. And again, these texts were written on golden plates by prophets in ancient America, which these golden plates were found by Joseph Smith, who had a vision of Moroni, an angel Moroni, and he appeared to him and told him where the golden plates were. He said that he found the plates on September 22nd, 1823, on a hill near his home in Manchester, New York. So these plates were found in America. And then so on. He was gifted the gift of tongues, where he could translate the golden plates, and then created the Mormon faith. When these people caught wind of his religion, his newfound religion, and what he found and everything, guess what happened? The same thing they've been trying to do to Trump. He was unalived, and there's a lot of conspiracy behind why he was unalived. Some people will tell you, oh, it was because he was a polygamist and blah, 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 blah. But everybody back then practiced polygamy, including people that weren't in the church. It was something that they did back then. So if that were the case, everybody would have been unalived. Like I said, I don't want to get into the whole conspiracy behind the religion. I want to just focus on the book and the message, because it aligns with America being the promised land and being the new Jerusalem. And I know my mom's listening. Hi, Mom. Please don't send the missionaries to my house. And for the rest of you guys, take the information as you will. If it doesn't resonate, move on. You don't have to start a whole list of drama on my comments. Like I said, I just wanted to focus on the book and the message and leave the conspiracies around the religion behind. Anyway, that's all I have, you guys. I think I pretty much covered everything that I could cover on this. We'll see what they come out with tomorrow. We'll see you then.
What was 500 miles away from Jerusalem? The Dead Sea. What is the Great Salt Lake? A dead sea. Just something to think about. Just something to think about. Doesn't necessarily mean
I found more
that she's 100% accurate. But I've been saying for the last couple of years that I believe that America was the land of milk and honey that was promised. Could there be two of everything? Yes, there could be two of everything. But what I'm saying is the Dead Sea, as we know it today, actually has fish life. Okay. But the Great Salt Lake does not. I believe every once in a while a carp might pop up in the Great Salt Lake. But I'm thinking that there's a lot more to this because we know that we've been lied to about everything, right? Okay. You know, that if we think about it, you got the Great Deserts, which would be New Mexico and Arizona and parts of Texas, right? Great Deserts, correct? Okay. And even as far up into Utah as well, because Zion Park is pretty much a desert area. Okay. So and then we have there are just so many. There are too many to even think about right now. I'll go crazy trying to think of them all. But I mean, it's just the comparisons. You know, the Grand Canyon. Okay, and what's in the Grand Canyon? Well, they found all these Egyptian things. So was the Grand Canyon part of Egypt? Okay, because we know that the Israelites were able to travel to Egypt easily, and that Egypt was easy to travel because just a short sea, right? Plus all the giants. Yeah, I'm just saying that there's so much to this. Go on. Get over on the other side. Hi there, baby girl. Go ahead. Go. Scout, go. If you're not one of the little ones, you stay over there. No, Baron. All right. I got a girl in heat right now. I got her under my desk, and I got my rollaway bed is behind me, blocking the way so the big boys can't get to her. She's got 3 more days to go, and let me tell you, it is a project keeping them separated. But she doesn't get to have pups until next spring. So yeah, she's on a hiatus. All right. Joe Rogan and Billy Carson interview blew my freaking mind. Have you ever heard of the active denial system? All right. Shipwreck put this out. Let's see what she's got to say. Here we go.
Have you ever heard of active denial system? Yesterday, I was listening to Joe Rogan's podcast with a man named Billy Carson. This podcast, they talk about a whole bunch of like spiritual stuff. They talk about the government stuff, just a whole bunch. And there's a section in there where they talk about something called active denial system. And my mind was just completely fucking blown. Remember when we talked about what had happened in Hawaii, or what was speculated to have been happening in Hawaii? Well, the active denial system, one of the arms of it is essentially kind of that same thing. A non-lethal weapon used for crowd control and area denial by the U.S. military. It started being talked about by news stations about 12 or so years ago. Essentially, it's an energy weapon. And it shoots energy that's non-lethal, but it heats your skin up to the point where it's so uncomfortable and it hurts so bad that you have to move, but it doesn't actually burn you and it doesn't actually hurt you in the long run. It travels at the speed of light and heats the skin to a painful burning sensation that forces the target to move away. To disrupt hostile activities, protect soldiers, and prevent collateral damage, because the precision with this thing can come right down to one person from a very long ways away. For educational purposes only, this is a real thing. However, according to Google, okay, the ADS is still in development and has not been used on protesters as of yet. But it is being marketed to military agencies and police reinforcement. It's not all the ADS can do. Combinations of acoustic and optical system platforms with ADS can be used to effectively communicate to, warn of escalation of force, introduce optical and auditory deterrents, and a step function the escalation of transmitted force from a relatively benign to ultimately forced dispersal of a crowd, or to deny them from entry to an area. People can theoretically be dispersed or induced to leave in a manner unlikely to damage personnel, non-involved civilians, or to nearby buildings or the environment. Podcast, Billy goes on to explain that if you are in the crosshairs of some of these energy fields, they can literally make you hear voices or force you to move in one direction or the other even though you're not quite comprehending how you're doing it. What's more interesting is then the conversation kind of gets into the worship gene. So the story with the worship gene goes that everybody, when they were created, when man was created, when humans were created, there was a little extra something that was put in there, okay, called the worship gene, that we would eventually pick a deity or an entity of some sort and worship them, give our life for them, give them all of our money, etc. And that the worship gene, you had the capability of turning it on or turning it off, and you could turn it off through deep meditation and things like that. So if you're ever wondering why some people out there seem to worship other people or deities or entities as much as they do, to the point to their own detriment sometimes, okay, it might have something to do with the worship gene. They may not have any control. So if you're wondering why groups of people got so like unusually crazy when they got together during like the Summer of Love or during some of these other rallies and things where they just go crazy, and you're just like, what? Well, it might be an ADS system making these people do it, encouraging these people do it. The next time you see something like that, just think about that. And next time you run into somebody where you just can't wrap your head around why they worship Hollywood or whoever it is to such a detriment to themselves, remember the worship gene. That whole interview just blew my fucking mind. You should go listen to it. It was just wild.
Yeah. Okay. Moving on. Here we go. The duality trap. Truth Seeker 01011.
Let's talk about the trap of duality, which is something a lot of people don't seem to understand. So when I go against the liberals, a lot of people immediately think that I'm a conservative. And if I troll the conservatives and call them out for their garbage, everyone thinks that I'm a liberal bot. And a lot of people get trapped into that trap of duality. Duality is supposed to teach us lessons, to enlighten our souls, to enlighten our knowledge. And what happens when you don't see the duality in things, you end up being exactly what you don't want to be. So let's take, for example, the Liberal Party in the 1970s, known as the hippies, the guys against wars, guys against big pharma, big, industry, big corporations. Now it has come full circle, and you are exactly what you didn't want to become. So as that pendulum swings back, right, are you going to get stuck in the same trap that the liberals got stuck in now? So that means if the conservatives win, are you going to believe everything the conservative government says, just like the liberals did, where they blindly went off the cliff with them? Or are you going to learn the swing of the duality? Yes, things are swinging back. Now, let me explain the entire thing of the Gnostics to you. When we reach a certain level of enlightenment, an age where we, kind of start to grow on a soul level, what happens is they do a great reset. That is why they're saying that the Great Awakening right now is happening so much that everyone is questioning everything. Now, even to those without faith, atheists, you believed in the scientific formula so bad that you forgot to question it. And what happened in 2020? You believed science so bad that you literally volunteered yourself to take an experimental something that hasn't turned out to be as safe and effective as they said. Why? Because you blindly believed science. And you made fun of people with faith, saying that they blindly just believe what is being said in a bunch of books, but you did the exact same thing, just on a scientific note, without questioning the intent of the human beings behind the science or behind what they wanted to do. So here's the problem with duality. As we swing back and forth with that pendulum, you're going to get stuck in certain lies that makes that pendulum swing back. The only way to free yourself is to learn from the duality and question everything, which is why I do what I do. I question everything. And I know I'm going to get called a bunch of names on this, and a lot of people are going to hate me because they're like, oh, well, if you're not for this side, then you got to be on this side. What if I told you that you can be an individual and forge your own path that you feel is right for you and your soul, and we can all still live very, very nicely amongst each other, because all it takes is some courtesy to live amongst each other in peace. We don't all have to have the same beliefs. We don't all have to have the same aligned everything. We just need to be courteous with each other. And we are all on our separate paths of enlightenment. I hope that makes sense. And I know I'm going to get some simpletons that are going to attack me for this, but these are my beliefs and this is how I live my life. I literally question everything, and there's not a single group that can make me go into a certain direction unless I feel comfortable going in that direction. But I want to know what you guys think, and I want to know how you feel about this duality that we're seeing today, because everything that you're being pointed towards, whether you think is good or evil at this time, could actually be evil in the future, just like we're seeing with the Liberal Party. And who knows where they're going to put the trap for the Conservative Party in the future.
Okay. If I wasn't confused before, I definitely am now. No. I get what she's saying. All right. Shipwreck says, good luck with George W. Bush and the Cheneys. Here we go.
Currently tonight, there's a campaign that's going around that is trying to get George W. Bush to endorse Kamala Harris. This is a part of the Republicans for Harris campaign that's been happening, calling for him to join the likes of Mike Pence, Mitt Romney, Paul Ryan, and Dick Cheney, who also recently came out and endorsed Kamala Harris. Liz Cheney also endorsed Kamala Harris, as well as a little over a dozen former GOP members, like Adam Kissinger. What's funny about that is I don't like any of those people, specifically the Cheneys, right? If you want to talk about war pigs, if you want to talk about warmongers, okay, the Cheneys are right at the top of that list. So it would make sense that they would also want Bush to join them. Because who's going to tell them? It's becoming more and more obvious that this isn't necessarily about Trump versus Kamala. This is an establishment versus the people, because all of the people endorsing Kamala are historically members of the establishment. Anyway, George W. has been pretty quiet. He hasn't said much about the whole thing, but I anticipate him to eventually come out and probably endorse Kamala. Y'all can have him. All of them. You can take them all. Just take them away from me. I ain't gonna be mad. I ain't gonna get all fired up. You can have him. Would rather, actually, if we're being really honest, not support the same person that they would support. Because if they were supporting Trump, then I feel like I'd be doing something wrong. Then I'd have to dig into it a little bit more. So you can have them. Good luck with George W. Bush and the Cheneys.
Yeah. About that. All right. Meanwhile, in Chicago says I mean, therefore I am.
Did you not? If you order your food on DoorDash, 9 times out of 10, it's gonna be a Venezuelan. Ordering your food, can't fucking speak fucking English. Like, they literally took over. They took over. They taking the fucking jobs, y'all. They taking over. And the government is helping their ass. How the fuck do the Venezuelans took over the whole DoorDash? They took over the whole delivery system. Kid you not. Order some DoorDash right now. I bet the motherfucking Venezuelans got it. It's like, I don't know if they got their own fucking network through DoorDash or whatever, because I have yet to see a black person order me some, deliver my motherfucking food since they came here. Since they came here. Y'all, they taking over the house.
Yeah. People got concerns. Well, actually, it's still more. I'm sorry.
Housing system, they taking over the DoorDash, they taking over. Oh my God. I got tears in my eyes, y'all. They pushing us out. They pushing us out, and the government is helping them. They giving these Venezuelans cars and shit, and they can't even fucking drive on the 290. They can't fucking drive. They swerving into lanes and shit with no fucking license plates on their fucking cars. The police not even pulling them over. Let it be a black person. Even though they look fucking black, but they don't, cause they dress, they dress. You could just tell them apart from the Hispanics, the Puerto Ricans. You could from the blacks. They got their own fucking swag, their own fucking dress code. They taking over. They taking over, y'all. They gonna run us out of Chicago, y'all. They not running me out of Chicago, bitch.
She's a young one. This is going to be probably the first election she gets to vote in. You know what I mean? Go on. Just because you're not looking at me, Baron, doesn't mean you too. Okay? Just because you're looking away. Well, I don't hear you, Dad, because I'm not looking at you. Oh, yeah. You're about to hear me. 1776, put this one out. Here we go.
Now, if you vote Democrat, I don't even want you around this church. You can get out. You can get out, you demon. You can get out, you baby butchering election thief. You cannot be a Christian and vote Democrat in this nation. I don't care how mad that makes you. You get pissed off as you want to. You cannot be a Christian and vote Democrat in this nation. They are God-denying demons that butcher babies and hate this nation. They hate this nation. Get mad all you want to. I don't care if you stand. I don't care if you throw tomatoes, praise God. I'm about to throw a microphone up in his house. CNN can eat my dirty socks. You cannot be a Democrat and a Christian. You cannot. Somebody say amen.
You say, you can eat my dirty socks.
The rest of you, get out. Now, if you vote.
If you don't like that, eat my dirty socks. Oh, what is this world coming to? Oh, man. Oh, man. Oh, man. Oh, man. Oh, man. Oh, man. It does. It gets better. It gets better. It gets better. Yeah. Just, what can I say? I honestly, I don't even know what to say. I really don't. Because it's like, yeah, makes you wonder, right? All right. Give me a second here. I was just doing something on my phone. Sorry. All right. Huge breaking news. First Lady Jill Biden busted for misusing donor funds. Uh-oh. Sounds like a new secret investigation. Secret squirrel.
Yeah, so we'll probably just take it out of the general DNC account. Who's going to file a complaint?
What?
I said, who's going to file a complaint?
Last time we met Joyce DeSears, the compliance manager for the DNC, who was talking openly about how Kamala Harris has no accomplishments and the compliance manager thinks she can't win this year. Let's roll a quick flashback.
I like Kamala Harris, but I don't think she'd win this year. She's weirdly unpopular. She doesn't have any accomplishments to speak of because she's vice president.
Well, DeSears had more to say about the presidential election to our undercover OMG American swiper. This time, it was on the topic of First Lady Jill Biden. Now, in recent weeks, the New York Post published an article stating that First Lady Jill Biden took a personal trip to go to Hunter Biden's gun trial in Delaware from France, with the DNC covering the bill as the rest of the tab would be going to the taxpayers. So let's dive into the analysis on this. According to the Federal Election Campaign Act, that's FECA, it prohibits the use of any contribution received by a candidate to be converted by any person to any personal use, under 2 United States Code 439AB1. Thus, the DNC cannot pay for personal trips for political candidates or their affiliates, but only for political or campaign trips. Was the DNC committing an illegality, or was this a legal loophole? Well, we decided to ask Joyce DeSears about this possible issue with the DNC. Here's what he had to say.
I read something this morning about the DNC having to foot part of the bill for the First Lady's trip to Delaware from France. So is the DNC gonna cover a lot of it?
Probably. That's the security is to the search hospital. Yeah, we pay for a bunch of Joe Biden stuff.
But that's not campaign related, but it's still okay to foot the bill?
Who's gonna file a complaint?
What?
I said, who's gonna file a complaint?
So if no one complains, it's okay to have the DNC cover the cost of the flights for the First Lady?
Yeah, pretty much.
Even though she's flying home for Hunter's trial and it's not so much campaign related activity?
Yeah. Yeah, so we'll probably just take it out of the general DNC account. So yeah.
Okay.
But it's possible, there's what's called DNC operating. coming back, it kind of is campaign related because it's a PR thing. She has to be at her son's trial. It's a political issue.
Joyce DeSears, compliance manager for the DNC, says, quote, "Who's gonna file a complaint?"
Who's going to file a complaint?
What?
I said, who's going to file a complaint?
It's truly shocking what people admit when you use a hidden camera. The undercover cameras you've seen us use in the past are now available for sale. Go to our website, o'keefemediagroup.com, click on Covert Camera Store. It's illegal.
Come on now.
For it. It seems as though DeSears is suggesting that it's okay to do it, possibly, if it's illegal, as long as nobody finds out about it or does anything about it. Now, as stated in the New York Post article, it appears the DNC will pay back a portion of the money to the government used for Jill Biden's personal trip. Question is, will the DNC pay back the government? Is the DNC covering up possible financial legal issues until someone complains about it? Will they reimburse now that this video has come out? We're not sure. Why are taxpayers on the hook for a portion of this personal trip? On top of all of that, why is the DNC paying for personal trips for First Lady Jill Biden at all? We don't know the answer to these questions, but it raises a lot of important questions, and we think this video will shine a light on that. Now, if you're on the inside of the DNC or the White House and notice corruption, lying, stealing, or cheating, we urge you to come forward and speak truth to power. Our country will go nowhere without people on the inside shining a light and talking about what they're seeing. Contact us at our signal number. That's 914-315-9415. We read all of them. We don't respond to all of them. We are looking for people on the inside or who have material information the public has a right to know. Or you can DM us on our X account.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. We got it. We see you. We see you, pal. All right. The FDA. Well, let's see what she says.
Does anyone want to talk about the fact that the FDA gets 47% of its funding from the pharmaceutical industry? 47%. And they only released this information because there was a rumor that 50% of their funding came from the pharmaceutical industry. So they came out and said, no, actually, it's only 47%. So think about that. The people that you're supposed to be making rules and regulations for are the same people that are paying you money. Seems like a conflict of interest, no? So I've been having a few health issues, and I realized in researching, which has been really difficult to actually find valid information that isn't paid for by Big Pharma, 85 to 90% of the women who experience the same issues that I experience notice changes in their symptoms or alleviation completely from their symptoms simply by changing their diet, namely going gluten-free. Now, I personally am not one to do that, but I am cutting out refined carbs and sugars from my diet. I've been on this diet for 2 days now, and I already feel a ton different. Just kind of makes you wonder, but I'm excited to be bringing you guys along for this whole journey. We're putting up our squat rack again in our home gym. We did get some egg-laying birds, and we're just basically saying a big to Big Pharma. I still can't believe it's 47% of their funding, and they think that's okay. Anyways, always, I look forward to hearing your thoughts about all of this down below.
Yeah.
Does anyone want to talk about the fact that the FDA gets 47%?
Yeah. Yep. Sir Oliver says, does everyone understand the significance of this post? Read it carefully, then read between the lines. This is huge. So let me make it bigger. Woo. Just a little bit smaller. There we go. Cease and desist. I, together with many attorneys and legal scholars, am watching the sanctity of the 2024 presidential election very closely because I know better than most the rampant cheating and skullduggery that has taken place by the Democrats in the 2020 presidential election. It was a disgrace to our nation. Therefore, the 2024 election, where votes have just started being cast, will be under the closest professional scrutiny. And when I win, these people that cheated will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law, which will include a long-term prison sentences so that this depravity of justice does not happen again. We cannot let our country further develop into a third world nation, and we won't. Please beware that this legal exposure extends to lawyers, political operatives, donors, illegal voters, and corrupt election officials. Those involved in unscrupulous behavior will be sought after, caught, and prosecuted at all levels. Unfortunately, never seen before in our country. So there's a couple of things. They will try to leave the country, but the borders will be closed. Is one thing that comes to mind. Disclosure and accountability and justice. Cheating and skullduggery. Pirates. Who were the original pirates? The Khazarians. Just thoughts running through my head. Yeah. All right. One thing that he said yesterday in his speech that I wanted to go over with you guys. They destroyed and deleted evidence from J6 because a lot of the evidence pointed to Nancy Pelosi. MJ Truth Ultra put this out. Many of the stories were fake stories. They were all made up, and we caught them. Now I think that's a criminal act. They should pay a big price. Take a listen.
That they destroyed and deleted all documents, all evidence, all proof. They don't have anything. You know why? Because a lot of it pointed to Nancy Pelosi. It was her fault because she's supposed to be in charge of security, and she turned down thousands of soldiers or National Guard. She turned them down, and it was so obvious. And all of the stories, many of those stories were fake stories. They were all made up. And we caught them because the Secret Service, frankly, said that stuff wasn't true. They deleted and destroyed documents. Now, I think that's a criminal act. Isn't it a criminal act? What the hell happened? When is something going to happen? How come it always happens to a Republican, but doesn't happen to them? They deleted and destroyed every ounce of documents and evidence that they did over a year and a half because it came out badly for them. And they should pay a big price for that. They should pay a big price.
Yep. It's all coming there. All right. Corn-fed mafioso says, Repo Man, Brooklyn, New York, an Italian dude, not letting you get his truck. Keep up the payments. Here we go. I think the tow guy might be Venezuelan from the driving that you'll see.
Dude, put my fucking truck down now. Put this fucking truck down. Get the fuck out of here. Get down, you motherfucker. Put the truck down. Put the truck down. Put the fucking truck down. Get the fuck down. Get that fucking truck down. I'm warning you, motherfucker. Don't get the fuck away from this truck. Get the fuck out of here. Yeah? Fuck him! Nobody's taking his truck from me. Yo!
I don't think it was the tow truck driver that drove off with the tow truck. I think it was the guy who owned the pickup truck. Stole the tow truck. He pulled him out. I don't have any context to what ended up happening. Oh, here we go. Here's another angle.
I want
stole my truck. That's crazy. Call the police, man. I want
Oh, no, I guess it wasn't the tow truck driver. And yet another angle. Here we go.
Out here in the truck. Hey, Tony, you scream like a girl. Yo, Tony, you scream like a fucking girl.
Don't put your hands on the car.
Oh, it is the okay, the bald guy is the guy who's in.
Someone call the cops.
Yeah, so the driver of the pickup, the owner of the pickup truck took the tow
Open
truck.
this window. I said, oh my God. Yo.
Oh, that dude is nuts.
Yo. Bro. Oh my God. Oh my God. Yo. What the fuck? Yo.
Oh,
Damn, it was the guy who owned the pickup truck. What's this? That's too funny. Have another Red Bull. Repo got to be faster next time. Hold on. We got to see this one now. Taking my car. Oh, man. Yeah. All right. That's funny. That's funny. Well, it's not funny, but it's funny. It is funny. Okay, it's funny. It's freaking hilarious. Because we know that most of the loans and everything that they were given from the bank were from your own fucking straw man account anyways, that they were loaning to you to collect the interest off of. Yeah. So, you know, it's like, wow. It's like, yeah. All right. Bernie Sanders is confirming that Kamala is doing whatever it takes to win the election.
Described Vice President Kamala Harris as a progressive. She has previously supported Medicare for all. Now she does not. She's previously supported a ban on fracking. Now she does not. These, Senator, are ideas that you have campaigned on. Do you think that she is abandoning her progressive ideals?
No, I don't think she's abandoning her ideals. I think she's trying to be pragmatic and doing what she thinks is right in order to win the election. My own view is slightly different. I think that in America today, there are a lot of people, rural people, working class people, who no longer believe that the United States Congress and government represents their interests, too dominated by big money interests. So I think that there is something wrong personally when we are the only.
Described Vice President Kamala Harris as a progressive. She has previously.
I need to pull something up in order to go out and unload all the gas cans and get them stocked and stored. And because the girl's by herself, and I can't have all them dogs all over her. So I'm going to crank on this interview here with X22 Report and Kash Patel. This will give me time to do that. And the interview itself is well worth watching. So I'm going to play it for you while I go and take care of business. And here we go. Save and boom. All right, play.
Let's talk about your health. If you suffer from any type of daily pain, I need you to listen to this message very carefully. What we know about the root cause of pain is changing forever. As we age, aches and pains are natural, and we all are searching for an effective way to relieve pain without side effects and addiction. Let's be frank. We have all seen the horrors of the opioid crisis. You may even be affected personally, and that's where a pioneering medical scientist comes in, Clint Winters. You may have seen this world-renowned health expert featured in the national media as he unveiled a natural pain reliever that is taking the world by storm. Yes, I'm talking about Conaladyne, the 100% drug-free way to get full-body pain relief without dangerous pills. As you read this, Conaladyne has become the go-to pain reliever for over 1 million Americans and hundreds of professional athletes. It was so powerful, it was used even exclusively by UFC fighters, and those guys know a thing or two about managing pain. Now get this. Clint explains how Conaladyne is the only compound on earth that optimizes your body's natural painkillers called endorphins at any age. When taking daily, your body will fire back to relieving pain like you were in your prime in just days. And let me tell you, I was skeptical, but it works. I've tried virtually everything and I have not felt this great in years. It's like all my daily aches and pains just faded away. My back, neck, joint, muscles all feel great and renewed. Best of all, Conaladyne does not make you feel the least bit groggy or drugged up. I feel great, alert, focused for the day ahead. And the best news, Conaladyne has no documented side effects after 14 years of extensive testing. Hear me when I say this. Conaladyne is absolutely the future of pain relief. So if you're dealing with pain, make sure to click on the link below and check out Clint's amazing, informative report on 100% American-made Conaladyne. This innovation is changing lives by providing safe and powerful relief at 1/10 the cost of pain pills. Now here's the best part. When you click on the link below today, you can access the only Conaladyne product in the world for less than $1 per day. The private link and discount will stay active until midnight. Try Conaladyne risk-free for a full 90 days. You have nothing to lose. You are days away from finally beating pain forever. Go to trycono.com/X22 now and see for yourself. Hi, and welcome to the X22 Report Spotlight. Today we have a returning guest, Kash Patel. You can find all of Kash's work on fightwithkash.com. You can find his book on government gangsters, his movie on government gangsters, and that's governmentgangsters.com. And I am very happy and honored to have Kash back on the X22 Report Spotlight. Kash, welcome back to the Spotlight.
Hey, thanks so much for having me back on the program, my friend. I'm excited to hear what you want to discuss.
Yeah, I wish I had an audience here so they can clap when you came on, but I don't have one. That'd be nice. And
It's okay for me. Just don't do it for that Nunes guy.
Yeah, we don't want to do it for him. So I wanted to start off with Kamala now because she's I guess the front runner here who's running in the election.
Yeah.
Do you think she's going to make it to the election?
At this point, yes. She's their candidate, putting aside the fact that they lit on fire the Constitution and democratic process to airmail her into the candidacy after 16 million Americans voted in the primary process for Joe Biden. It's ironic that the Democratic Party is preaching to us about the democracy in a constitutional republic. But she's it. They're stuck with her. I think we are past seeing that bump that she got from being airmailed in and the media going nuts and everybody glomming all over her. And now people are starting to talk, or at least try to talk to her and ask what her real policies are. And the only thing she can seem to muster is a video featuring Donald Trump's border wall, which she mocked for 4 years.
With her being the candidate right now, she's supposed to debate Trump, and she's been arguing quite a bit about the debate rules and things like that. Do you think she'll actually debate, or do you think she'll back out in the end?
I think you will see one presidential debate, and it'll be this one coming up, I think, next week, September 10th, whatever the date is. And that's it. It's going to be one and done. And they'll come up with a reason that says, you know, President Trump did this or that, or the media was unfair, so we're not going to participate in it. And of course, the Democrats and the mainstream media are the only ones that can get away with such a statement and such a maneuver. And I think if President Trump, which I believe he will, sticks to his policies and sticks to what he's been talking about, like at town halls and on the campaign trail, he is going to show the world finally one-on-one what he has and what Kamala Harris doesn't. And once that happens, I think it will be game over for the presidential debates.
So if she does do the debate, are they going to do what they did to Biden? Because again, if President Trump sticks to the issues, sticks to his policies, I mean, for her, it's really going to be bad. I mean, I think everyone remembers the debate with Biden. Are they going to do a Biden on Kamala then? Because at that point, I believe that her poll numbers are going to drop like a rock. People are going to start to see the true Kamala, and will, I guess, Obama, who's in the background, will he say, holy, or whoever else is in the background, will they say, you know something, her poll numbers are dropping, this is really bad? You think they'll try to swap her out? Because at this point, I don't really think they care if they follow rules or don't follow rules, if there's an election, there is an election, because it seems like their party just kind of goes along with it.
Well, that's well taken. And you're right. They just kind of make it up as they go along. The reason I still think they're stuck with her is because the Biden swap out occurred before the DNC convention.
Okay.
And now that the delegates have been awarded, and after the debate, which is going to happen on September 10th, you're talking about 50 some odd days till the election. I think everybody on the Democratic side is already saying the things you're saying, just not publicly. With is not the greatest candidate. I can't believe we got her, but this is where we landed, so this is where they're stuck. Even the Democratic machine, I don't believe, can churn out a flip of a sitting vice presidential candidate, of a female candidate on the Democratic ticket for presidency that late in the game. So I think they're saying exactly the things you're thinking. I just think for now and this time around, they're stuck. If it was 90 days out, they'd probably swap her out again.
I mean, the only thing I can think of where they might swap her out is if she comes down with some type of illness or something happens to her where she cannot continue on.
Yeah, I guess then they're stuck with Tim Walz.
And Tim Walz, incredible pick. Don't you find it interesting that out of all her picks, there wasn't a black woman, there wasn't a black man, it was all the same white guys, which I find very interesting, and they all seem the same, but they picked the worst of all those people. I mean, why would they do that?
I was honestly shocked that she didn't go with like a Shapiro, the governor of Pennsylvania, Jewish guy, especially in the times that we are living in right now with the war in Israel and whatnot, and Pennsylvania being such a critical state. It's not like you needed Minnesota, and it's not like Tim Walz adds anything to the ticket but a deception campaign that he's been running since he was 10. So I honestly don't understand the thinking there, except the only justification I've thought of about it is that Kamala Harris, wanted to pick someone that didn't outshine her. And I feel like if she went with the Shapiro or one of the other folks that they were talking about, they would have easily surpassed her in not just their ability to debate and issue policy points across the board, but they would have surpassed her in the media and the skills that they possess. Tim Walz is basically like a giant panda on stage. I mean, this guy can't say anything that's not scripted. And when you look back at his accomplishments for the state of Minnesota, they're not accomplishments, they're negatives. Like between his economic decision-making and his decision-making to allow Minneapolis police precincts to burn down to the ground and delay the National Guard. I mean, it's right out of Nancy Pelosi's playbook in Washington, D.C. So he just doesn't have anything to stand on, and they just needed an obsequious lackey for Kamala Harris. And I think that's why they went with him.
I guess they needed someone kind of like dumber than her. So, I mean, that's the way it seems to me. I mean, it was tough to find, but I think they found the guy.
You know what? I honestly think most of the world didn't know who Tim Walz is. And I think the DNC and the radical left-wing machine said, we're just going to manufacture this college or this high school football coach, veteran combat guy who's now governor of the great state of Minnesota. And this is not a knock on Minnesotans, but and they were able to put out this cookie cutter thing and trot him out on stage and tell him to read this line and read that line and then get off stage. But he got caught with a monumental lie about his service record, and that is a huge disqualifier.
Now people are pointing out all the different things that he lied about. And it's very funny because his family actually is all for Trump.
I saw that photo, man. Oh, man.
And it's funny because I think AP put out an article saying, well, those are his distant cousins. So basically AP confirmed that, that's his family. So
what AP forgot to mention was that Tim Walz's own brother actually issued a statement damning Tim Walz's sort of credentials to be the vice president. So, whether they want to distance that statement from the picture, I guess they can go ahead and try to split that hair. But his family, wire to wire, does not support him for the vice president.
And that's absolutely incredible. It blows my mind. So we have Kamala as the nominee. We have Trump as the nominee for the Republican Party and Kamala for the Democratic Party. So Trump said something very, very interesting, that he is not going to accept the intelligence reports from the clown organization. I'm assuming Kamala, it probably is. Well, she is VP, so I'm assuming that she's getting it. Why do you think Trump is saying, something? I don't want to accept any of these intelligence reports.
I'm glad you brought this up. And it's pretty timely because remember, Trump said that not today, not yesterday, but a while back. And what do we have the buffoons that authored Russiagate at the Department of Justice and FBI do with Merrick Garland? Re-implement Russiagate all over again just this week. So why would anyone want intelligence from the very DOJ and FBI and IC that lied to the world about Russiagate, that lied to a federal court to illegally surveil President Trump, that lied to the American public about the Russian disinformation campaign, allow them to regurgitate it? Why would President Trump want to receive intelligence from them? It was a pretty prescient thing for President Trump to go out and weeks, if not months ago, say he's not going to listen to their intelligence because their intelligence is completely bought and paid for by the Democratic National Committee, just like they did with Hillary Clinton. And so I can't blame them one bit, or President Trump one bit, for saying, I don't want intelligence. It's just a shame and an embarrassment that our Department of Justice and our FBI, who have put themselves in this position by their own conduct, are yet again relying on the media to perpetrate another fraud and rig another election. And I think this time around, I really do. People are saying, wait a second, this is what your guys are coming down to? You're saying it's Russia, Russia, Russia again? Of course, Donald Trump was right to say, I'm not going to listen to these bozos. And that's part of the reason people are so attracted to President Trump's national security policy, is because he's the one guy that's going to go in there and say, we're going to fix DOJ and FBI. We're not going to let these Muppets utilize taxpayer dollars and give these staged speeches in which they continue to lie to the world about who actually is interfering in our democracy. I'm going to go with Iran, who hacked President Trump's campaign. I'm going to go with Iran, who murdered American hostages. I'm going to go with Iran, who started World War III. And then we'll go to the CCP. I'm not saying Russians aren't doing any nefarious activity, but you're giving them a hall pass, and Putin over there on the other side of the world is having a field day with these government gangsters at the FBI and DOJ.
I mean, were you shocked when all of a sudden they said Russia is interfering once again? Did you call Nunes and say, hey, dude, we're back. We got everything. They're trying it again.
I called Devin and I was like, have you been drinking? Are we in the Twilight Zone? How did we go back 6 years? For the two of us, where this thing was extremely personal, and we just put out the truth as we saw it then, and it continued to hold, and it continues to hold today. But even I was just shocked that they went back to Russiagate. But that shows me that they have expensed every round they have in the chamber. They don't have better policy, zero. They don't have a better way to safeguard the economy or the border or end the wars or stop sending our children to fight some other man's battle. They don't have another way to end Iran's reign of terror. They don't have another way to shut down the CCP in their advance on Taiwan. And they certainly don't have a way to combat the cyber intelligence offensive operations that Putin is running. And so what they give you is a version of Russiagate, Hunter Biden's laptop, 51 intel letter, insurrection disinformation campaign, impeachment 1, impeachment 2, all jammed together in the new Russiagate 2.0.
So if Trump isn't getting intelligence reports, is he getting information from other places? Because I guess Kamala, I guess they're not feeding her crap. I assume that they're feeding her actual information.
Wow.
What about, well, maybe not. But what about Trump? I mean, are you concerned that he's not receiving, or is he receiving it from other places?
Well, look, let's take Kamala first and then go to
Okay.
him. As the former deputy director of national intelligence, my job was to make and deliver the presidential daily briefing, right,
Okay.
to the president of the United States and his cabinet. And what we were able to do with President Trump was he said, here are my priorities on intelligence: Iran, the CCP, narco traffickers, terrorists, and the Afghanistan situation, Russia, things like that, right? Because we only have so much bandwidth. So the president sets the marker and says, fire off here, 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 and here. And then everything else is tier 2. What Kamala and Biden have done is made DEI, climate change, the weather, and white rage tier 1 collection priorities, literally. So what she generates from the intelligence community and what is delivered to her is vastly different than what could be delivered to her in what is an actual national security threat, because they want to weaponize the intelligence community. So she is getting what she asked for, but she's not getting the material she needs to defend this nation, because she's told our intelligence and defense apparatus, don't look at the actual enemy. Tell me about when the sun is going to rise. And I wish I was lying, but that's literally what they've done. Now, Trump, on the other hand, while he doesn't have access to that PDB and intelligence cycle and doesn't have the ability to set the stage on what is a priority and what isn't, he's surrounded by individuals, guys like Johnny Ratcliffe and Rick Grinnell and Devin Nunes and all these other folks who held high positions in government, highly sensitive access to classified information. Not that they have it now, but these guys are pretty astute at reading the tea leaves and reading the media. And also a lot of people continue to have their own sources in faraway places. So you don't need to rely on a weaponized system of intelligence. And I think that's President Trump's, sort of ace in his back pocket. He knows who he can count on to say, hey, I want to know what's going on in Afghanistan. I want to know what's up with Putin in Russia. What are we doing with DPRK? And while he doesn't have access to that full suite of intelligence, even though Kamala Harris has access to it, she's not using it. Donald Trump continues his priorities about defending this nation. And I think he's got enough people he can talk to say, hey, I need to know what's going on. And then he's able to speak to it, unlike Kamala.
So you're saying that like Rick Grinnell and John Ratcliffe and the others, they don't have security clearance at all to get intelligence information?
No, most of us still do. I still do, right?
Wait, I didn't know that. Wait, you still have the ability to get intelligence?
So I still have a security clearance, right?
Okay.
I still have a top secret security clearance. I'm sure most of those guys do as well. It's whether or not intelligence is delivered to them. They're going to say they don't
I
have
see.
a need to know, as we say in the community. And so it's highly unlikely, unless they were invited in by the current administration, not just them, anybody, to say, hey, we want to brief you in on this. And because you were the former DNI or acting DNI or what have you, chairman of this and that, we want your opinion on it. And that's happened. That happens frequently over in Congress. So I can't speak to what they've been given access to, but it wouldn't surprise me if they had been called upon by their former colleagues, at least the Republicans in Congress, to say, hey, we need your help navigating this because we know you dealt with X, Y, and Z when you were in your position.
So as we move towards the election, we could see that the deep state players, they've been trying to remove Trump, stop Trump. Actually, if you go back to 2016, I think it's very apparent now that they've tried everything. And I think one of the last things, I'm not saying it is the last, do you think he will go to prison, or do you think he has the ability to stop this?
I sure hope he doesn't. And I think if he's even sentenced to a single day in prison, the response from the American public will be an overwhelming response for President Trump, because it will be the final piece of proof that they need to see to say we have become a fully weaponized banana republic where we imprison our political opponents. It's no longer a tagline or a campaign line or a sentence. I don't think it's that way right now because he's already been convicted in this bogus sham trial in New York of made up charges. But the rest of the country and the world, if you actually sentence him to jail, they'll see it for what it is. Now, this judge, Marchant, and we'll talk about him another time, but I don't think he will issue a sentence that says you have to immediately surrender. I think what he will do is say either we're going to delay this slightly or I'm going to issue a sentence of X amount of time in jail, but we're going to wait till after the election to implement it. I think he finds himself in a position where he thought at the beginning of the trial he's the savior of the left. And now he is starting to realize if I give this guy a day in prison, I'm probably going to hand him the presidency. And so I don't know what balancing act he's going to pull now, but I think he overplayed his hand during this trial. And I think September 18th will actually be a very good day for Donald Trump in terms of politics.
I think they just want it as a talking point, just to say, hey, he was, even if he does, well, if he does go to prison, I'm going to tell you right now, a picture of him behind bars will be on every t-shirt, every mug. I mean, he'll make millions and millions of dollars from that. And it will hurt the Democratic Party and all the deep state players. I think they just want it as a talking point to say, hey, he was convicted and now he's sentenced, but it's not going to work at all.
No, I think you're right on the talking point deal. They wanted the talking point of a conviction. They got that talking point. Now they want the talking point of, we're going to send him to jail, but we're going to hold off for right now. But they want to be able to just say it. That's pretty astute.
Yeah. And just going back to the Russian interference with the election. I mean, back in 2016, they said, Russia helped him win the election. They interfered and, Hillary Clinton, kept pushing that narrative. But this time around, I heard you on another podcast talking about a cyber attack. Are they just going to say it this time, or are they going to show the people that Russia is actually helping Trump, even though they're really not? Are they going to use a cyber attack? Talk about our health. Have you ever wondered what happened to the legendary Chuck Norris? I recently saw a video he made and I was shocked. He's in his 80s and still kicking butt and working out and staying active. What's even more shocking is he's stronger and work out longer and even has plenty of energy left over for his grandkids. He did this by just making one change. He says he still feels like he's in his 50s. His wife even started doing this one thing too, and she's never felt better. She says she feels 10 years younger. Her body looks leaner and she has energy all day. Chuck made a special video that explains everything. Make sure you watch it by going to chuckdefense.com/x22 or click the link down below in the video. It will change the way you think about your health. Once again, that's chuckdefense.com/x22 and click on the link in the description below to watch the video now. You won't believe how simple it is. Just a reminder, legendary Chuck Norris is a whopping 81 years old and yet has more energy than me. He discovered he could create dynamic changes to his health simply focusing on 3 things that sabotage our body as we age. Watch this method by clicking the link in the description box below. That is chuckdefense.com/x22. To maybe say they manipulated the results, or, I mean, let's say Trump wins and everyone goes, oh, yay, he won. And then all of a sudden they say, oh, hold on, everybody. It was a cyber attack. We don't know if these results are on the up and up. They might have been manipulated. So we're going to have to take a look at it. I mean, do you think they'll go that far?
I think it's important to identify who the government gangsters are that are running this op again, because it's the same people. Lisa Monaco and John Carlin were senior Obama Justice Department and White House officials who ginned up Russiagate.
Right.
John Carlin was my boss at the Department of Justice and National Security Division who authorized the illicit FISA warrant against Donald Trump. Lisa Monaco and John Carlin are now the number 2 and 3 at the Justice Department. Obviously, we all know who Chris Wray is and who covered up the FISA abuse and then violated FISA 274,000 times himself in 1 year to illegally spy on Americans. So this is the cadre of law enforcement that's there. Then you have the intelligence community, who is also Obama administration leftovers from Russiagate. And like Admiral Haynes, who's over at DNI, and all these other folks are going to come together like they did before. And if Donald Trump wins the election, they are going to come up with more ways than you can think to contest it, which will be the ultimate hypocrisy and irony of ironies. They're going to say somehow it was rigged. They are going to say, as you alluded to, that there was some sort of intrusion or incursion, whether it's the Russians or the Chinese or the Iranians, that they must look at it, that everything's on hold, and we, the Biden-Harris administration, are in charge of the U.S. government, so we're going to dictate to you, the American people, our findings. And what Congress, and this is our only foothold here, the Republican majority in Congress, if the White House and the Biden-Harris administration start to pull these maneuvers, they got to come in hard and fast and demand public hearings from every single person in a leadership position and obtain every single document so they can't do what you just said and said, oh, there was an intrusion, but we can't show you because it's classified. Too much is at stake, but you're right. They're going to come up with a whole suite of options to say the election results are on hold if Donald Trump is shown to be the victor.
If we go back a little bit in time with the 2020 election, Trump made a very big deal with Pence saying, hey, you should have sent the results back to the legislature. And the Democrats, they changed the law saying the vice president cannot send it back to the legislature. So if this scenario does happen, Kamala Harris is the VP, she won't be able to send the results back. So what do? They just put the whole election on hold?
No,
Yeah.
I mean, I guess they theoretically could do that, but if they decided to do that, then they would have an actual scenario where you have a sitting VP committing an actual insurrection. Again, the Democrats and the radical left-wing media are the biggest projection con artists of our time. They continuously accuse Donald Trump and his movement of doing the very things they are always guilty of. Rolling out disinformation campaigns, weaponizing the system of justice, 2 tiers of justice if you dare to be a MAGA supporter or if you're Donald Trump himself. And now they have positioned themselves to be in a seat where they can actually halt the results of the election so they could secure the election for themselves. That would be an actual coup. And so I just find it the irony of ironies that this is a position that they might find themselves in. I have no idea, honestly, what they would do if they get to that position. But if they tried to hold on to power even just 1 second, it would be, in my opinion, an exposition of everything that we have been talking about for these last 8 years that is wrong with the radical left-wing agenda. And it might be a victory in disguise for the rest of America.
Yeah, I agree. And with this, I mean, if there is a cyber attack or something happens, to prove that, we're being attacked or foreign entities trying to manipulate the elections, do you really think there'll be like power outages? And do you really think there will be problems in the country?
Well, I think I don't necessarily connect it to the election. I just think if I were our adversary, if I were the CCP, if I were Russia, if I were Iran, if I were North Korea, and out of the 4 there, the Russians probably have the best intelligence capabilities. And it's maybe a tie in terms of combining those intelligence capabilities and cyber offensive operations between them and the CCP. And it doesn't cost them a lot of money. It's very hard to detect if you're not proactively looking for it, which this administration clearly is not, because they've not made it a priority. So I just think that if they were going to attack at a moment of weakness, it would be during an election cycle. And it would be because they could hide their tracks and never actually get caught. I don't know that they necessarily care about the results of what that does to the election cycle. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. I just can't tell. But I think their option would be, or their desire would be, how do we screw with America the most? And in my opinion, our electric grid infrastructure systems have been deteriorating for decades, and no one has made an emphasis on it. President Trump tried to during his first administration to upgrade these things and to secure these things, because if you shut off some of these switch stations here and there, you're going to shut off half of America from electricity for a while. And it's not just like a simple reboot. And so that is my warning to anyone in the Biden-Harris administration that's listening. It's your job to safeguard this infrastructure. It's your job to proactively protect against these cyber offensive operations. And they're simply just not prioritizing to do so. And the result could be pretty catastrophic. And it unfortunately ties right into a time of historical consequence with the 2024 election.
So these systems, they're not all tied together. I mean, are you saying that the entire country will just be blacked out, or
No. They're not tied together.
They're not tied together.
They service big geographic chunks.
Right.
And that's just if you're talking about electric, right? Say you're talking about a specific stylized cyber attack to take out Wi-Fi, to take out the internet, to take out telecom. There's a whole different set of options these folks have that is outside of just turning the electricity switch fully off, which I think is the worst one, obviously, because it shuts everything down. So they have options.
Yeah, so I guess it's almost like the same. I think this happened in 2003 when the Northeast, all of a sudden we had a blackout and it was just a big chunk. So we might, I mean, what you're saying is we might see like a chunk of, let's say, California, like California might be blacked out, or Texas might be blacked out, or parts of Texas might be blacked out, but not the entire country, or everything will just shut down.
Right. I mean, you'd have to put on a massive operation for any one of those singular things to happen, and to have a total dominant blackout, you'd have to put on. I don't think even our adversaries are thinking to stage that type, or do they have the capabilities to stage that type of offensive operation. But if anyone's out there saying, "Oh, they can't do it," well, look what they did to the Paris Olympics in the middle of the Paris Olympics. That wasn't an accident. It's not like somebody forgot to pay the electric bill. They turned a city off in the middle of the Olympics. So I think, to me, that was a show of force to say, hey, whether you're a bad actor in terms of a country or a nation, or just a group of bad actors who don't like X, Y, or Z, these are things that people can do.
So since they're using the narrative that Russia is going to interfere in the election, I think we can assume, and maybe I'm wrong, that they're going to say, hey, Russia did this. Russia is the one who did this, which then when I think of that, if a foreign entity attacks our national infrastructure, and the election system is also part of the national infrastructure, isn't that an act of war?
That's a difficult question, because the answer can almost never be delivered with exact certitude. So if you're going to, unlike a physical 9/11 stylized attack against our country, which we could pinpoint to an Al-Qaeda or a UBL or something like that, unless you're actually looking to detect this thing before it happens, and unless you actually have a definite finite piece of intelligence that says it came from Vladimir Putin's house, declaring war on that kind of measure would be not in the interest of the United States, in my opinion. But that's what our adversaries are counting on. They're just going to say, it wasn't us, it was those guys. It wasn't those guys, it was that group of wackos, those black hat guys over there. It wasn't China. We would never do that. We're too busy dealing with Taiwan or in the South China Sea. These guys aren't stupid. They've actually gotten together, and they also know that they can do pieces of these operations and lay the blame game around. And they know the dummies in America will say, oh, it's Russian disinformation. And I just want to remind the audience that, remember when President Trump was running the first time back in 15, 16, whatever it was, and there was the disinformation campaign that the Russians had hacked the DNC and John Podesta's emails and everybody else's emails.
Yeah.
Well, our FBI wouldn't let James Comey would not let the FBI have access to those servers at the DNC. He instead gave it to his buddy, Sean Henry, who owns CrowdStrike, who used to work for Comey. And CrowdStrike seized the servers, and CrowdStrike only exploited a piece of the servers. So we never had the answer as to who definitively attacked the DNC servers. But for 2 years, we were allowed to hear the disinformation campaign that it was the Russians that hacked it. And I interrogated Sean Henry under oath, and that interrogation is finally available in public back then. And he admitted, he goes, we did not have the information to say whether or not the Russians hacked the DNC. That was a cover-up that the FBI ran through James Comey. And so you can expect these same government gangsters, if there's this stylized attack yet again, this is their roadmap on how they will handle it, because that's how they've done it before. And now they've injected that same campaign back into the ether.
Yeah, I saw the fake news. They're just going to come out, and of course the clowns, if they say, hey, it's Russia, everyone's going to run with it, and everyone's going to think it was Russia. So without any proof. I mean, they have, just like they, the same clown said Hunter's laptop was Russian disinformation, which turned out to be fake. So I think you're right. I think they're going to run with the same exact thing. But I mean, how long can they hold the elections? I mean, if they say, hey, can they say we have to do it over? Or, I mean, what do you do at that point if they're saying that it's manipulated?
Yeah, look, that's a situation that's never happened before, right?
Yeah.
The Supreme Court, I mean, the closest we've come to that is, down in Florida, Bush v. Gore on the whole, what's the punching the card thing called?
Oh, the Chads or whatever?
The Chads, the hanging Chad, right? And the Supreme Court came in quickly and said, here's the decision, here's what we're doing. That's the closest we've ever come. I'm not saying that the cause of that is the same as what we're talking about here. So I just don't know. Nobody knows, because no one knows if it will go to the Supreme Court. And even if it went to the Supreme Court, who's to say that the radical left-wing Democrats, who know that the Supreme Court is more in favor of, well, not more in favor, has a majority that was appointed by conservatives versus Democrats, they'll probably be like, oh, we're not taking it there. We don't believe it. And we're still in power and we're going to do X, Y, or Z. I don't know. It's a guessing game. And if they want to toy with the constitutional republic and set it on fire, then they will do it at their own expense, because on January 20th of next year, it's my belief that Donald Trump's going to be sworn in as the 47th president.
Yeah, I mean, we just have to get there. And that we just got to get there. That brings me to the SAVE Act then, because, I mean, again, we're speculating, but the House passed the SAVE Act. I don't think the Senate is going to. I don't think Mitch McConnell wants to, take this on. I know Johnson and Trump, I think they're both working to put this with the continuation of government spending bill. Right now, it feels like Trump kind of trapped the D's and the rhinos, because if they don't include it and there isn't no negotiation, they're just going to let the government shut down. If they do pass it, then everyone uses paper, everyone needs an ID, everyone has to show up in person, and we count in one day. So what option are they going to choose? Or is there a third option that they have?
Well, I think this is Donald Trump's political forte showing at its finest. He is putting what I believe is the number one issue this election cycle front and center in Congress right before the financial shutdown of the government. He is saying our voting is directly tied to the illegal immigration that has been occurring under the Biden-Harris regime. And what you've never heard Kamala Harris come out and say is, I only want American citizens voting in American elections. She will never say that and has never said that, because she knows that states who control how the electoral process works for the federal government in their own state determine who gets a ballot. And why that's of critical importance is because of this SAVE Act. You would think in the United States of America, we didn't need another law that says you have to be a U.S. citizen to register to vote. That law's already on the books. But because a federal court about 15 years ago interpreted how that law is enforced and left it to the states to enforce verification of U.S. citizenship for registration to receive a ballot, states like my home state, Nevada, and others simply ask you to show up and say, check yes or no, are you a U.S. citizen? It's the total honor system.
Yeah.
There's no verification. Hence, they want the SAVE Act to come in and close that loophole and say, you need some form of proof to show you're an American citizen, birth certificate, what have you. And the Democrats, they don't want that, because that's going to take out the millions of illegal people, that immigrants that have come across and are probably being sent ballots. Because all the Democrats want at the end of the day is the thousands and thousands and thousands of ballots to fill them out and stuff them and put them in ballot boxes. And so they will never say they are against illegal immigrants voting in this election. They will just say, oh, they're not illegal immigrants and we shouldn't call them that. And we'll fix the elections after we win in November. And so I think what President Trump has done is forced the Democrats and Kamala Harris specifically to address that issue by saying, are you really against the SAVE Act? Are you really against American citizens of voting in an American election? She's going to have to defend that. And I hope it is attached to the CR, even if it just forces that conversation. There's great warriors like Mike Lee and company on the Senate side who are championing the SAVE Act. But let's force Mitch McConnell in the Senate to shoot that thing down if that's what they want to do. Let's force them to publicly say their campaign and their political party is built on a singular concept that says we do not believe in voting rights for American citizens. We believe in voting rights for anyone in America as long as you get a ballot, and we're going to control who gets a ballot. I think that is a mighty powerful argument that President Trump has shaped in his favor. And whether or not the Senate approves it, I think it's worth having this battle because it's coming right in the election season, and it's going to force them to either keep the government open and accept the SAVE Act or shut the government down and reject the SAVE Act and say, we are for non-Americans voting in American elections.
And, I just thought of something else. I mean, let's say they reject it and they shut the government down because otherwise they're going to lose no matter what. I mean, so if they do shut the government down and we are attacked or Russia helps or they say that Russia manipulated the election, it's during a period of time where the government is shut down. They're blaming it on Russia. And then everyone could just turn around saying, well, you had the government shut down. No money was, being allocated to certain areas. You allowed this to happen. I mean, no matter which way you look at it, they're kind of screwed.
Well, actually, I never even thought of that, but now I'm going to steal that when I do other shows.
Okay.
No, it's a whole nother layer on this three-dimensional chessboard. If they shut down the government, then who is going to be standing guard, even with the jacked up priorities of the Harris Biden administration? Because look, I've been furloughed as a federal employee. Obama did it to me and I never got my money back. But you get sent home and you don't show up to work and you're not allowed to work if there's a government shutdown. And even all the emergency necessary employees that are classified as such can't run the entire U.S. government and protect us from that kind of nefarious activity. So yes, it will happen on the Biden-Harris watch, which is another brilliant reason that President Trump is going to hopefully force this issue and this argument and this vote in the United States Congress, because the shutdown would be on them. And then the shutdown and the Democrats would be responsible for whatever disastrous results we have during the election cycle.
Let's say the Senate, they say, okay, you know what? We don't want the government to shut down because all of our money laundering and everything like that. We want to get our money. So let's say they pass it. What is Biden going to do? Because,
that's another thing. Is this guy going to sign it?
Yeah.
I don't know. He could reject it. So it's going to be a very interesting week or two here. When we get to it and we force this thing, hopefully force it onto the CR, force the House to vote, force the Senate to vote. And then if it gets to Biden's desk, is he going to be the guy that says, nah, I'm shutting down the government. I don't want the SAVE Act. Yet another powerful political messaging point that I think inures in Donald Trump's favor.
So if I just want to go back to if they decide to shut down the government, because they have to make this decision on September 30th.
Fiscal years, at the end of the month.
Okay, so we're going to have the whole month of October where the government will be shut down. I guess every week that goes by, they have to shut down additional things because they don't have the money, to keep everything open. So it's going to continually shut down. So if there is some type of manipulation that they're saying that Russia manipulated the elections, and they're saying that we can't certify and we have to hold the elections. At this point, do you think Congress can say, you know what, we got to do the elections over, and this time we can't use the systems because we don't know if there's malware. We don't know what happened to them. We must use paper. We must use ID. We must use voting in one day. So will this force the SAVE Act at that point to do the elections over if they're manipulated?
I don't think that there's a way to have a redo in our current system. I think Congress will be put in a position to be forced to certify the election in January, if it comes down to that sort of scenario. I just don't see a court of law in Congress saying, we got to do it all over again. And so I don't think we get there. I think the SAVE Act, that decision will be made well before. Either it will pass or it won't be in the CR, or Biden won't sign on to it, and Americans will vote based on that issue being another central plank of this campaign cycle. But I just don't see any court or Congress saying, yeah, we're going to do this over.
For them holding the elections where they're saying they're not going to certify because they've been manipulated, do you think they want to make the Trump base angry? Do you think are they trying to force something like a civil right? I think Jamie Raskin, if we don't certify or if the elections are manipulated, Trump supporters are going to get angry. They'll probably riot. And then we'll use the 14th Amendment on Trump, saying he caused another insurrection. Do you think that this is the direction that they're heading in?
I don't know that they have it planned out in that sort of sequential order, but I think you can count on the Democrats, the radical left wing, to come in and use every piece of hypocrisy they have thrown at us for themselves to try and secure an election victory in November. How that all plays out, man, it's going to be interesting to watch it unravel, and interesting to see what things they come up with and what distractions they want. And it will be very interesting to see if they're the ones that want to see an actual circus in and around Congress if the Democrats failed and Congress fails to certify the elections. Now we know, remember, it was Nancy Pelosi who didn't want the National Guard and rejected it
Right.
and allowed for a crowd to gather outside of the Congress. And it wasn't the fault of anybody else's but her failure and Mayor Bowser's to secure it after President Trump authorized it. And again, they also didn't bring in no-climb fences. I had to bring them in from DOD. And why they weren't set up earlier? Because I think there were some folks that wanted to see that sort of chaos so they could pin it on Donald Trump as another disinformation campaign. And so those folks are still in DC, and they might want a version of that come this next election.
This time we have a different speaker. We have Speaker Johnson. So do you think he would actually go ahead and realistically protect the Capitol?
Well, I think for him, it's lessons learned. He knows what needs to be done and what should have been done by his predecessor, or before McCarthy, his predecessor Pelosi, and what didn't happen. And it's now abundantly clear how the law operates and what the rules are. So it's entirely on him to I guess in this instance, work with Biden, who's the commander in chief, who could also, by the way, slip the commander in chief hat over to Kamala in the lead up to the election here to make her quote unquote president and give her a boost politically somehow. And he could just retire from the seat.
Do you think that'll be an October surprise?
I think it's in the works. I've always said this. Look, I think that no member of the Biden family will ever go to prison. This tax trial that Hunter Biden's now underway is a total sham and a fraud. He should have been charged with multiple serious felonies years ago. Not to mention the fact that he's already a convicted felon. But Daddy is going to save him. He's never going to do a day in jail. And I think the horse trade will be, I'm going to, Joe Biden, leave or retire. You, Kamala, are going to take the reins. And once the election is over, you're going to pardon my son and my entire family and myself. Because remember, presidential pardons aren't just retroactive, they're prospective. So if you pardon someone, you pardon them for the entirety of the conduct that you put in the pardon paperwork. And I've always thought that that was going to be some way, some deal of the horse trade, because if you can count on Joe Biden to do one thing, it's to save his family from all this illicit conduct that they have been caught in. And he can do it with the stroke of a pen.
But they can still bring charges against Biden, though. Joe Biden, because why would they, with all the investigation of the House and all shell companies?
He'll pardon himself. He'll put himself in the pardon.
Pardon from what crime, though? He hasn't.
You don't have to be. Okay, so that's the thing about pardons.
Okay.
You don't have to be charged with a crime to pardon yourself.
Really?
You can pardon anyone, not just the president. You can pardon any human being as president to say, I pardon Kash Patel for all his activities in Afghanistan. That's it. That's all you need to do. And that's game over. And that's for everything. Now, if you commit new crimes going forward from the date of that pardon, you're not protected. But that's all it takes.
So do you think this time around, as Trump continually says, the election is going to be too big to rig? Do you think we have more people than we had back in 2020? And do you think the election will be too big to rig?
I do. I think his policies are so dominating. The country is in such a catastrophic free fall, national security, economy, and everything else. And the cost of living is just skyrocketing during this administration that people who don't normally participate in the polls are saying, I'm getting involved. And yes, it was better 4 years ago than it is now. And so I do believe Donald Trump's message to swamp the vote and make this thing too big to rig is resonating. And I'm seeing it everywhere I go. And even on the Trump 47 meetings that I lead and these engagements I have around the country, people from all walks of life are coming in. The gun owners are coming in, the Bitcoin community is coming in, and all sorts of single issue voters are coming in and saying, man, our country is on the wrong track and I want a better future for our children. And that's what DJT.
Hey, Kash, thank you very much for being on the X22 Report Spotlight. Once again, if people want to get your book or see a movie, where should they go?
Yeah, I appreciate it. Just go the book, the best-selling book, which is, it's got a cool new cover.
Ooh.
It's the cover of the movie, Government Gangsters.
Very
you can
nice.
buy this on Amazon or governmentgangsters.com, but go watch the best-selling documentary in America, Government Gangsters that Steve Bannon made into a film right before he went into prison. 61 minutes. Go to warroom.film. Warroom.film. You can have a watch party in your community. We're taking screenings all over the country, but it is this book on screen showing you everything we just talked about, how government gangsters are upending our democratic way of life and how we can fix it. So check it out. And lastly, selfishly, Plot Against the King 3 just came out.
Ooh, nice.
Don't forget your kids. It's the return of King Donald and the return of the MAGA King.
Great. I'll put all the links at the bottom of the video to make it a lot easier for people to go over. Cash, once again, thank you very much for being on the spotlight. I really appreciate it.
Hey, thanks. That was an awesome conversation.
Absolutely.
All right. And that was our X22. I won't have to cover the interview, the posts that I have for the interview, thankfully, because the fact that you guys got to watch the whole interview, and I thought it was a pretty good one. So, all right. Elton John, Donald Trump says, here we go.
Supporter of Donald Trump's. He loves your music. How did it feel when he took the lyrics to Rocket Man and he used it as a nickname for Kim Jong-un, and then he gave Kim Jong-un
I laughed. I thought it was brilliant. I just thought, good on you, Donald. I'm the Rocket Man. Yeah. Donald's always been a fan of mine, and he's been to my concerts many, many times. So, I mean, I've always been friendly towards him, and I thank him for his support. Yeah, when he did that, I just thought it was hilarious. It made me laugh.
He gave Kim one of your CDs and signed it. That was one of the books about him, because Kim, I guess, didn't know the song. So
what's that?
He gave Kim Jong-un the signed CD.
Yes.
Which
yeah.
He never heard of it.
I know, because he hasn't heard of me, Kim Jong-un. I'd be very surprised if he had. I've never toured North Korea, and I have no intention of doing so. But it was. I thought it was a light moment, and it was fun.
Yeah, interesting. Okay, RFK. Here we go.
For 19 years, I prayed every morning that God would put me in a position to end this calamity. This is a spiritual journey for me. I reached my decision through deep prayer, and I asked myself, what choices must I make to maximize my chances to save America's children and restore national health? I felt that if I refused this opportunity, I would not be able to look myself in the mirror, knowing that I could have saved lives of countless children. President Trump has told me that he wants this to be his legacy. The most unifying theme for all Americans is that we all love our children. Ultimately, the only thing that will save our country and our children is if we choose to love our kids more than we hate each other.
Oh. Oh. That stings a little bit, doesn't it? Especially when we know that there's one thing that unites the people. We've been talking about that for some time. You know? Give me a second, guys. I'll be right back with you. Okay. Had to shift some furniture around. Yeah. All right. Moving on. Conservative mama. Here we go.
An absolute. Oh, he will be an absolute dictator if he gets back in. I'm talking full-blown tyrant. So yes, democracy is most definitely at stake. How will he be a dictator? Well, he'll open up our southern border, allowing millions and millions of illegal immigrants to flood into our country. Many of these illegal immigrants will inflict harm on American citizens. He'll force Americans to pay other Americans' loans. He'll weaponize our justice system to go after his political opponent. He'll attempt to remove his political opponents from the ballot. If you speak out against his regime, He'll throw you in jail. He'll attempt to use government agencies to force Americans to inject themselves with a substance that they don't want in their body. And if they don't inject themselves, they'll lose their jobs. He'll shut down small businesses if they do not comply with his edicts. He'll force your daughters to change next to men in their locker rooms. He'll collude with big tech to censor American speech that he doesn't like. He will raid the home of his political opponent. He will push for biological men to compete against women in women's sports. He will go after Catholic nuns who object to what he wants them to do. He will tell people what to wear. And every dictator throughout history, before they go full-blown tyrant, attempts to disarm their citizenry. He wants your guns. So yes, democracy is most definitely at stake. Remember this in November.
All right, that's our conservative mama. Moving on. All right. Now, yesterday, I showed you guys a video of what appeared to be a large group of Venezuelans moving through Chicago. Well, this guy's got a report and he wants to have a talk about it. Here we go.
Something fishy going around the world, especially here in Chicago, and I'm finna get down to the bottom of it. Now, I've been seeing a whole lot of videos going around talking about Venezuelans is taking over Chicago. They taking over this building that's on 61st and King Drive. So I'm gonna walk over there real quick and see what's the word, because I think it's kept. And I think that they're trying to start a war between our people and their people. I don't want to say the races because I don't want this video to get taken down. Shout out to Sun though. But I haven't seen actual video proof of nobody on that block. Don't get me wrong. I did see that shit that happened in Aurora, Colorado. That was one incident where some people had, and they took over. I won't say they took over the whole apartment complex, but apparently they robbed somebody. They did what they did. I don't believe that's happening all around the country. The reason why I say that because it's a whole lot of Chicago police reports saying that 32 people. First of all, how y'all know it was exactly 32 people in the building? Exactly 32. It seemed like some conspiracy type shit, G. And I feel like it's to get, because at the end of the day, bro, I'm over here at my Oblock right now. I'm going to show y'all. It ain't no way the Oblockians or the 6030s is going to let that shit slide, bro. My theory is that they want to bring martial law, or they want to be able to police these neighborhoods. And the only way that they'll be able to enforce that is if the people sit there and vote and be like, oh, it's too violent out here. It's war. It's this, and that. And they create an illusion that is war. And that's why I said, like, they trying to manipulate people by being all in their emotions, bro. If they can manipulate you by your emotions, especially by being black, then they can get you to do anything. That's how all these politicians be doing. Now, if y'all not from Chicago, y'all don't know how 63rd look. Look at all these people in the run. Look at all these melanated people in the run. Doing pretty good. You mean to tell me them niggas came over here, straps, then the third, Taurus, G. No, that shit ain't happening, bro. That shit major capital. Hey, y'all live over here. I'm actually doing a little fake small interview about the building on 61st. Y'all ain't seen none of that shit, did y'all? I'm not recording y'all. Okay, cool. But y'all, nobody saw nothing besides police reports, right? You don't know nothing about nothing? Okay, yeah, so apparently yesterday, 32 Venezuelans took over the building on 61st Street, and I just don't believe that's possible. The way they took over an apartment complex. You really think they did? With all the people out here, did that happen? Okay, well, thank you for your feedback. Thank you. See, I'm just asking people who actually live on the block or two, and they think it happened. So we finna see if I'm wrong, we finna see if I'm right, we finna see if I did chill and smoking. But hey, I gotta be in the field to really know this shit, so let's see. I don't know, man. This motherfuckers out here, Jay. If they can get people to go to war, I'll vote for some shit that didn't happen, like they do every other war, like they do every other situation. They can manipulate y'all, then guess what? They can make y'all vote. They can make y'all just having people coming here and ask police walking around. We got curfews and shit. I'm trying to tell y'all. Okay, y'all. I think it's this building right here. I think that's the building. I'm finna interview some people over here and see what the fuck happened. Get they part of the story type shit. So yeah, I'm over here talking to a couple of people that's over here on 61st. They definitely verified that that shit did not happen. It's yeah,
It's just media trying to start a war between Venezuelans and blacks. That's all. But these Venezuelans, they trying to survive just like we are.
Same shit, bro. I agree, man. And I appreciate what y'all doing out here for real.
For sure. Thanks, bro.
So it was, but it wasn't a whole apartment complex. Imagine 3 people robbing one person. That's all that happened. So now what I think is happening is that the media is using this as an opportunity to manipulate people. One real thing happened. So now people in Dallas are saying it's happening to an apartment complex in Dallas. I live in DFW too, but it's all reports. It's all reports. Like it was 5 Chicago. I think it was like 15 different reports from Chicago police officers saying 32 Venezuelans in the building on 64 King Drive, but there's no reports of actual people or no witnesses actually seeing this shit. I'm like, there ain't no way none of y'all niggas let this shit happen on this block.
What they was talking about, bro, say that it was a big ass party.
It was a party, man. They threw a party.
They had a party.
And it wasn't just it was mostly Venezuela, but the guys was in there too, because they fuck with the guys.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Smoking motherfuckers buying because they be buying the squares off us.
Yeah.
How do I go?
And you know, it wasn't even like that though.
It's so
but it was though. Somebody reported how the Venezuela they got.
I believe it.
Just like
they out here. Why wouldn't they? You know what I'm
You know what I'm saying? So they put that on social media and they just took it and blew it up.
Because now they're trying to get people. They're trying to get us to fight them, and I'm trying to.
Like yesterday, I see the video about the O Block shit. They weren't even nowhere in O Block. They was by Von Miller when they were talking like, "Oh man, Venezuela take it on." They got the background.
Yeah, the video they added. That's what I'm saying. And I
don't even think dude was Venezuela because he spoke English too good.
He's like
and he didn't have an accent.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's like they try to push this narrative and try to get us to fight with each other.
Exactly.
You know what I'm
and
saying?
that's exactly what I'm trying to catch.
That's why I'm out here. That's why I'm out here talking to the brother. I'm like, man, don't fall for that narrative. That narrative falls though. You know what I'm saying?
I appreciate you, man. For real.
You be fine. They taking over the. I know, bro. They ain't even like that. Why? I said, bro, don't listen to that shit. That's the media trying to push this narrative.
I had to come down here myself. I had to show people like, no, I doubt it. I doubt it.
We got a text to our job group. From the big boss.
The big boss. Like, what's going on down there?
Damn.
You know what I'm saying? He thinking it's like.
And that's what I'm saying. So you got people who you got people looking at this on social media, TikTok. You got kids that's all like and they just thinking it's rah-rah. They don't understand like how this shit go, and they take the internet shit and they run with it. Now everybody
they pushing this. They trying to push this.
They definitely is, bro. And I'm glad y'all shutting that shit down.
Yeah,
it's extremely dangerous, bro. It's extremely dangerous. Cause now you can see one person walking past, and you know what I'm saying, and then you go motherfucking whatever because they disrace. So and then the martial law go come, and now we got curfews. It's bullshit. So
they trying to push that shit.
I'm glad y'all really stand up against it. What's up, bro? Rico. That confirms it, y'all. The media is a fucking lie. Here's the building right here. That shit did not happen, bro. That shit did not happen. It is major cap. Y'all heard it from the people y'all heard it from the motherfucking people themselves, y'all. That's just more proof for y'all to stop trusting the fucking media. Stop trusting everything you see on the news. And now that people don't even watch the news, social media is the new news. It's all this shit is cap, G. Trust yourself, trust your intuition. I wasn't even finna walk over here. I was just finna take a motherfucking nap, bro. And right before I went to bed, I was like, no, check, verify that shit, bro. That shit ain't happening. They pushing this story all around the fucking world. They gonna make people start offing each other, bro. And I don't fuck with that shit. Y'all stay sane.
Stay sane. Stay sane. So, big difference between what the guy was saying yesterday, the other video, and it was nowhere near that location whatsoever. Yeah. It's and it's good that they're paying attention, that they're calling this shit out. Needs to be done. Needs to be done. All right. Sherry says Kamala Harris said it. This will not be community noted. And somebody somebody community noted it. Let's see here. The community note produces no proof she didn't say it. It's widely reported she did. Are you a paid Putin stooge too? All right. Once Trump's gone and we have regained our rightful place in the White House, look out if you supported him and endorsed his actions, because we'll be coming for you next. You will feel the vengeance of a nation. No stone will be left unturned as we seek you out in this great nation, for it is you that betrayed us. Kamala Harris said that on June 18th of 2020. And I remember that. I do. All right. Matt Wallace, here we go.
Breaking news, the Justice Department says a planned terror attack in New York City has been thwarted. The suspect allegedly wanted to target Jewish people on October 7th, 1 year after the attack in Israel. The suspect was quoted by the FBI as saying, "If we succeed with our plan..."
It's not October 7th. It's only June. Yeah, it's June, guys. It's June. Oh, Lord, I'll be okay. It's only September. So how can you say that it was, yeah.
This would be the largest attack on U.S. soil since 9/11. CBS's Nancy Cordes is at the White House with new reporting. Good evening, Nancy. It is chilling to read what this suspect was planning.
It really is, Nora, and it took the FBI working with Canadian law enforcement to identify and apprehend this suspect, who is now accused of plotting to carry out a mass shooting at a Jewish center in Brooklyn, which authorities say he wanted to do just over a month from today. The suspect's name is Mohammed Shahzeb Khan. He is a 20-year-old Pakistani citizen who lived in Canada. He allegedly began posting on social media in support of ISIS last November, and eventually, without his knowledge, began communicating with two undercover law enforcement officers. That's what led them to him. According to Attorney General Merrick Garland, the defendant is alleged to have planned a terrorist attack in New York City around October 7th of this year, with the stated goal of slaughtering, in the name of ISIS, as many Jews as possible. October 7th, of course, will mark 1 year since the brutal surprise attack by Hamas on Israeli citizens that left nearly 1,200 people dead. Now, Khan was apprehended just a couple of days ago in Quebec. It's believed he was headed towards the U.S. border. A resident in the area said she saw police officers outside her home put a man in handcuffs on her front lawn.
They said that it was confidential and they couldn't tell me what was going on. I just saw, the SWAT team vans and the army and the guys all in camouflage with the M16s.
This suspect allegedly told the undercover officers that he chose New York City because it has, quote, the largest Jewish population in America and, quote, we could easily rack up a lot of Jews. He is charged with one count of attempting to provide support to terrorists. Nora?
Good work by the FBI and law enforcement. All right, Nancy Cordes, thank you very much.
Okay. Again, rearranging furniture. Sorry. Nab it. Okay. Oh, boy. Okay, we saw the X-22. Here we go.
I think it's like kind of odd that like a guy like me has to come out from doing what I do on a daily basis to have fun, because I see what's going on in these streets, and I see you guys just sitting up there in them comfy chairs and suits, and I'm getting out here every day and I'm broadcasting this, and you guys are just sitting up there in suits or something. Like I really challenge you guys to get out here and do something. These Haitians are running into trash cans. They're running into buildings. They're running into, they flipping cars in the middle of the street. And I don't know how, like, y'all can be comfortable with this. Like, I don't know, like, who's getting paid from it. I honestly feel like someone's getting paid from it in the background. You got a bunch of people on a bus getting dropped off at a gas station to come down here. I know a single mom that FaceTimed me this morning at the welfare office that really need something. And it's nothing but immigrants over there. And I don't even want to like seem like I'm coming down on the immigrants because it's the people that's bringing them down here. Because wherever they're at, that's what they're used to, bro. They're in the park grabbing up ducks by their neck and cutting their head off and walking off with them and eating them. Like, y'all get the Highway State Patrol down here every week, and then y'all get like a task force for the Highway State Patrol, and they look for guns and they look for dope and this and that and the fourth. That same people that y'all got riding up and down Limestone doing U-turns, pulling people over for blinkers and pulling people over for like going left to center and like a couple miles over, like y'all can take them same people, the Highway State Patrol, and you can take them in every single one of their silver Chargers and Dodge Durangos, and y'all can take them to Sunset, and y'all can park them right over there, and y'all can teach people how to drive. Since the Highway State Patrol knows so much about traffic laws and know what to do in traffic, they need to. Y'all pay them. They can go over there and teach these Haitians how to drive because it's getting up, bro. I'm getting thousands of views on these, and it's going to get bigger, and it's only going to get worse. And y'all sitting up there in these chairs, all y'all need to get out here and do something. Y'all making hundreds of thousands of dollars. Y'all need to put on a t-shirt and some Crocs, and then y'all need to come out here in these streets, and y'all need to go out here and I'm out here before the police is. Like, y'all need to do something, bro. Y'all really got to stand on business. Y'all getting paid all this money just to wear a suit and sit in a chair. I think it's crazy, bro. We got to do something, bro. It's kids out here getting hurt. Like, only reason I even went on here and said something about it is because somebody told me they walking from the school and a Haitian almost ran into them. And who is getting paid? Like, how much money is y'all really getting paid, like, to bring them over here? Like, I know it's deeper than them. I know that's where they come from, and that's what they do. That's their country. I don't know what they got going on over there, but they can't do that over here. And if y'all just getting paid from it and then y'all ain't doing nothing about it, I think that's super weird, bro. Y'all got to stand on business. Y'all got to really, like, step up. Like, it's lame, bro. Like, for real.
Thank you for your comments.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If I did that, I'd be, I can't argue with anything that guy said. Yeah, I know. I realized that I was muted just a minute ago. Yeah. Then I sat here for 10 seconds after I unmuted myself saying, what the hell? Now I got to remember exactly what I said so that I can say it again. And I forgot. It's 4:20 somewhere. Oh, here. It's 4:20 here. That's right. Yeah. See, that's why I take the batteries out of my clock at a certain time. So that way there, I don't have to wait around for the clock to say it. It's already there. But everything that guy said was on point. You think about it. You take that money that you're spending the state police to come in and give people tickets for blinkers and use that money to teach them how to drive. Most of them don't even have license plates or anything. Come on. All right. Sequencer. Wow. Please take the time to listen to this man's very powerful message to Black America. Here we go.
I was watching a video where this lady was saying that the Black community will never be the same after this election. And I agree with her. I think, especially now, in this moment, we have learned a lot of new things about a lot of our community. A lot of the people who spoke up, those who were preaching no justice, no peace, those who were fighting against the system, who were criticizing the government and trying to lead our community in the so-called fight for liberation. A lot of them have exposed themselves for being nothing more than puppets. A lot of them have exposed themselves for being teleprompters of the state. And thankfully, a lot of people in our community have been awakened to the scam that we've been falling for so many years. And so I am encouraged because a lot of the folks who have remained silent for so long, I see a lot more of them standing up in conviction, standing up against the intellectually lazy bullying that we have typically been subjected to by a gatekeeper class that tries to keep us complicit and keep us managed and in our place. Black people are tired of that. And while I see many of us walking away from the Democrat Party, it's not to say that the Republican Party is the quote-unquote solution. But I do identify that Black people have always been more of an ideologically conservative group. However, for some reason, due to manipulation or clever marketing, we have continued to vote against our interests. We've continued to vote as a bloc in favor of white liberal ideology, which often runs contrary to our own values and our own morals. And especially as it pertains to spirituality, or let's say the church. You know, I think that the Democrat Party represents everything antithetical to Black culture, historical, traditional values of the Black community. And I think we're starting to identify the scam, as I said. So I would just say to all of the Black folks out there who have been able to identify the lies that have been told to us, those of you who accidentally slipped outside of the matrix and you were able to see the code for a second, you know, once you see it, you can't unsee it. So I commend all of you for standing firm in your conviction and making it clear that you will not be used, you will not be manipulated, and you will not be commanded anymore. Because at the end of the day, we are a brilliant people, we are a powerful people, and we have a responsibility to do our best to make sure that the world we leave behind for our children is something that we can be proud of. And so, with that being said, there's no way in hell that I would ever vote for Kamala Harris or anything that she or the Democrat Party represent. And no amount of shaming, no amount of insults will ever get me to fall in line with that. Peace.
Yeah. No amount of it is going to make me line up with that crap. All right, this is going to be the last one for today. Here we go. Your map is upside down. Here we go.
So now we learn from the Bible why your map is upside down. Hello out there. In this video, I will be showing you that the East and West that we know of today is different from the East and West in the Bible. Now, this is the first incident in the book of Enoch where I almost gave up on trying to figure it out. I actually put this down because I could not understand it, but the Most High has encouraged me to pick it back up, and He gave me the understanding by opening up a candle of understanding in my heart. And now I will be sharing this with you, and it's coming from the book of Enoch. It says, and at the ends of the earth, I saw 12 portals open to all the quarters of the heavens. These are the four right here. 1 quarter, 2 quarter, 3 quarter, 4 quarter. These are the 4 quarters of the earth. All right. And it said 3 of them are open on the face, which is the east. All right. This is the face. This is as if this is a head. This is the door. And it's looking at you. So this is the face. So, and this is the back of the head. This is the ear on this side. This is the ear on that side. Let's just use that as an example. So we have the east. This is the face. All right. It says 3 of them are open on the face. That's the east of the heavens. And 3 are in the west. All right. 3 in the west. And 3 on the right, which is the south. See, we have 3 on the right. All right. Of heaven, and 3 on the left, which is the north. That's the left. That's the north. Now already, when we look at this map, or this chart, we see something strange going on here. So if we turn it like this, and we have the east on this side, which we normally look at, and we have the west on this side. Notice that the south is up and the north is down. Therefore, the east and the west is correct through here, but the north and the south is incorrect according to the way we think. But this is the Bible. So even if we turn it this way and put the north at the top, like we're normally used to seeing it, and the south at the bottom, we have the west on the east side and we have the east on the west side. So where are we going with this? Well, remember all of those videos online when they show the eclipse coming from the west? We see it coming from this way, or same thing here this way. It is actually coming from the east because the map has the north at the top and the south at the bottom, and this is biblical. So the eclipse is actually coming from the east, and we think that it is coming from the west, but it is actually coming from the east. So it is coming from this way, which is the east, and it's going this way. And as you can see, America's right here. So we see this eclipse coming from this way, and it's coming from east to west. I'm going to leave that at that. God bless you. Great night or day.
So, in other words, up is down, over is under, right is left, left is right, good is evil, evil is good. Now I'm fucking confused. Okay. Hey, it's Sunday. No time to be confused. Yeah. Yeah. Day of rest. Yeah. Take it. Enjoy it. Remember, our Creator loves you. His Son, Jesus Christ, loves you. And I love you. And we will see you again tomorrow. Tomorrow. I'll see you tomorrow. Peace.